Wednesday, May 7th, 2025. We are live from the Dojo of Design, the gridiron of grid layouts, and the Valhalla of vibe coding. It is Figma Config 2025. We're here in San Francisco.
In a pod.
In a pod. We are podding in the pod.
We're very excited about it.
Very excited to be here. Did you expect the scale of this event?
No, the sheer magnitude.
I mean, I met Dylan camping years ago. He's not the most boisterous of CEOs. He doesn't walk around with the swagger of someone who takes over San Francisco with something that is absolutely massive.
Future
mayor. I don't know if we can go to that camera and show just the scale of everyone walking around, but he was on stage. I mean, it felt like it was the Super Bowl of design.
It did.
It
felt the Woodstock of generative AI. Yeah. Many people have been saying this.
The gladiatorial games. It feels like
a moment.
Like a Roman Colosseum moment.
That's right.
Like something you see in Gladiator, but for designers and vibe coders.
That's right. That's right.
But we're very
amazing.
excited.
There's so many different builders, designers, agencies, other SaaS companies, and yeah, I wish we could honestly be out watching a lot of the keynotes. But we're going to be in here talking with some of the people doing keynotes. And we have somewhat of a live audience here.
Yeah.
We're in a
fishbowl.
Basically in a fishbowl.
It's great.
And so if you're here at Config, just come by.
Yeah,
say hello, wave.
Anyway.
But we're very excited to be here. And we have a stacked lineup of guests for the day.
Yeah, so we're going to run through some designers, some venture capitalists, some friends of the show, all sorts of people, some people we just met a few minutes ago who stopped by, took some pictures, and we said, hey, come on the show. So we're going to be doing some interviews over the next few hours, hanging out, talking about Figma, talking about what they're launching today. Should we kick it off with what they launched, and then maybe we can go back and do some history on Figma?
Yeah.
You found some interesting data points to share. I thought it'd be interesting to take people through, since that's the business side. This is not a business conference. They're not pitching the company, they're pitching the product, but we focus on the business and technology side, and so I thought it'd be interesting to go through some of that.
So I can talk briefly about the new products that are launching today, absolutely massive, and then we should really run through the backstory of the company, early years of Dylan Field. There's some crazy Dylan Field lore
the lore is
that
amazing.
We'll break down, but the things that are launching today, so the big one, I already posted about this, Figma Sites. It sounds like what it is. I've wanted this feature since the very first day that I ever used Figma in college. So if you've ever designed a website in Figma, you usually hit this point where you're like, great, we have a beautiful website. Now we want to turn it into a functional website that anybody can visit. And at that point, you would have to go off-platform and build your own site or host it elsewhere. Now you can effectively design a site and publish it all within Figma. And it's basically taking the time from design to live site down to effectively zero, right? Just publishing in the platform. So that's one of the ones I'm most excited about.
And there was always like a tension point there with the designers and the engineers, where the designers want a pixel perfect design. They export, this amazing PNG usually, and then the front end engineers like, well, I got close enough.
Remake it.
They have to completely rebuild it.
Yeah, and so this is a game changer. It gives more and more control to the person that's actually designing the website and enables them, effectively to go, allows the designer and the user in Figma to ship, even if you're not a designer. Right? I'm not a classically trained designer. I basically learned design through using Figma back in the day, and this just is so effectively just empowering, right? So I don't have to make something myself and then wait for somebody to dev it out. So
how do you think about this product positioned in terms of like enterprise versus prosumer? I could imagine this is all part of a funnel to get individuals like yourself who are doing work in design, and then they publish their site, and then as they scale, they stay on Figma until they're massive? Or do you think this is something that will be vended into enterprises for even huge sites? Because you imagine at a certain point, there's going to still be, that fine-grained control that comes from building something from scratch. But even for front-end landing pages, marketing pages, all these things, it was always better to have something that was a little bit more WYSIWYG, right? Something that you just
I think you just look at the journey of a company, right? If this is something that you can use, if you just have an idea for a company, something as simple, or you're creating an event, you want to get something out there, this allows you to go in Figma, design something in a few seconds, publish it, and get it live. And so that can be the starting point for a company, and and you can, I imagine, grow on it. The access for Figma sites will be rolling out after today. So, you know, I haven't been able to use it directly yet, but it's very kind of like everything else with Figma. I imagine it'll be super intuitive.
Yeah.
But yeah, over time, you know, companies of all sizes, from, you know, one person freelance operations to, you know, companies with thousands and thousands of people, I'm sure will be using this product.
And you have to imagine it's amazing for agencies that want to just share a link with the client and say, hey, here's our iteration. We built you a design in Figma, but you can actually just go play with it at this URL, as opposed to needing to go into Figma. And there's all these different tools. And even if you're in the view only mode, you're still kind of, as a client, saying like, well, I'm in a design software. This doesn't feel like the final product. It allows an agency. So yeah, we should talk to some agency
the big
folks
thing,
soon.
I mean, the amazing part of where design is going, where generative AI is going, is that it takes the time from rough idea in your head to real product. You know, in this case, in the form of a website, it's just compressing that, right? So the second product that they're announcing is Figma Make. It allows you to turn natural language prompts or imported designs into working prototypes or apps with AI. So this is what you're alluding to on the sort of like vibe coding side. You can go in and effectively prompt your way to, you know, working products and prototypes. And again, this idea of taking, effectively compressing the time from that initial spark of an idea to something that you can actually use, right? And we talked with Kari from Linear on the show a couple weeks ago, about this idea that with engineering costs dropping dramatically, everybody's expectation is let's not spend, you know, hundreds of hours planning and you know, iterating, you know, spending all this time iterating if we can basically get to something that's maybe even 60-70% as good as what the final product will be, so that we can feel it, use it, and really evaluate it from there. The third product, Figma Buzz, this allows you to create visual assets at scale without compromising brand consistency with built-in AI. This is an obvious one. Oftentimes, historically, I've built sort of like brand books, brand identity guides in Figma, and then, you know, any number of people on the team are going to go in there and sort of distort it and turn it into different assets.
Even for us, like we post like a silly meme or some, like we want to overlay the TBPN logo on a paparazzi photo, for example.
And it's different every time.
Yeah. I use like a different app on my phone for that, and then don't have version control as our logos evolved. I'm still using the old logo and stuff. So
so the idea with Figma Buzz is any person in an organization can come in and generate assets for a variety of needs, whether you need to generate an email for retention marketing, an ad for Meta, if you need to generate, you know, design for some type of event, you can do that all within Figma.
I do wonder how much that becomes just a true consumer product, because you can imagine something that is designed for these brand assets can also be used to make, you know, a invitation to a wedding or something like that. And a lot of those, like, you know, consumer products that you want to go in and not just have a blank canvas, but you want to be able to build off a template, make something look nice, then export it. Like you could imagine that this allows them to go even further, I guess, down market into the consumer who might wind up making a design software choice in the future.
Totally. I mean, the line between consumer and prosumer and B2B enterprise is just like blurring.
I mean, it's the story of like Gmail, right? Like you get everyone on a Gmail account. Eventually, they're going to walk into the enterprise and say, "Hey, I want to use Gmail at work," and then all of a sudden, Google Workspace becomes a huge business.
So, anyways, I expect this to be big in, you know, the enterprise specifically. If you have, you know, hundreds, thousands of people at your company that you want to keep assets consistent. If you are a creative director, or VP of design, or CMO, there's nothing more frustrating than watching people sort of take the brand and just kind of do their own thing with it. And so this provides guardrails.
And also like uniquely empowered by generative AI. Like the example that they have is this national park kind of invitation, and then they're able to publish this template and then have a different design for every animal that you could find in the national park, kind of like what Ryan Peterson did with those ChatGPT images in ChatGPT. He made a poster for every single Flexport location and was able to say, oh, Flexport Sydney, and it has this beautiful like Sydney background. And so you can imagine that that's normally so much grunt work, even just to go find the stock image that fits with that. But all of a sudden you have you're creating a template that can then have the eastern gray wolf and the alpaca and all the different elements that you'd want to actually have a flow of assets, as opposed to just like, okay, I made one, Now it's just as much work to make the second one.
Totally.
Now it's just as much work to make the third one. Instead, you're thinking at this like higher level abstraction, and so you're getting way more leverage out of whoever's on that project, right?
100%.
Cool.
The last product, Figma Draw. This is a product that allows you to express yourself with enhanced vector editing and illustration tools right in Figma Design. So this is a product people have wanted forever, much like the others. And historically, people would have to go outside of Figma to do this sort of like more complex illustration work. And so now you can do that in-house. And so again, Figma is a company that historically wants to spend the necessary time to make truly great products. And so again, the full suite here are things that, again, the users and the people that are here at Config have been asking for years. And so it's really making a statement to come out and launch these 4 massive products. So we should talk about some of the early history. Should we dive in there?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that John Lepore is ready, because we could maybe bring him in and do that if there's a gap later in the show. But if he's ready to go, let's bring him in. Welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for joining us. Grab some headphones. Good to see you. Good to meet you in person.
Yes. Yeah, great to meet.
What's happening, fellas? How's it going?
Not too much.
Welcome to the pod. We're podding in the pod.
Welcome to Config, man. This is wild, right?
Yeah. Is this your first one?
This is my first time coming here.
It's massive, right?
I knew it was a big deal, but my face was melted when I got here. Like the street was shut down, the block was taken
it's a block
over.
Party.
Block party. Yeah, you kind of expect it with Apple because they've been doing these big releases for decades now. But it's not every year that we see a company graduate to this scale. And so it's really shocking in that way. And then, of course, I was talking to Jordy about this. Like, Dylan is not the type to be like, oh, it's all about me. I got to throw this massive thing. It just kind of clearly happened because there was demand and there's partners and there's lots of people.
It's a community
here totally.
Too. Like it's a epic scale community. It's
yeah, it's crazy. So can you give us a little bit of background, introduce yourself for the stream for those who might not know?
Sure. So my name is John Lepore. I'm the co-founder of a practice called Black Box Infinite.
Cool.
So I'm here at Figma to present in about an hour upstairs on the mezzanine stage. And I'm going to be talking about my weird little corner of the world, which is this bizarre journey that I took towards working in tech and product design, which actually started through working in film. And I had this background of making the fake gadgets and technologies that you would see in science fiction and superhero movies and things.
Is that specifically like FUI, like futuristic UI, or product design that would be done by the art department?
So for me, it started as FUI, which was typically implemented into the film as a visual effect after the fact, but also started evolving into like really rich world building and creating deep technology concepts that might affect the plot of the story and help to move the narrative along in any of these films. And I love that space. I thought it was a really fascinating world to work in. And then I got really excited because at a certain point, pretty early on, real world tech brands started popping up and saying, hey, can you help us close the gap between these aspirational visions of technology that we see in film that sometimes are just, they're just sort of, beautiful images on screen or stuff that like doesn't make sense if you know anything about tech. Like real tech doesn't say access denied from one side of the screen to another.
System is being hacked. There's a hacker and all the code is spewing out. Oh, they're in my computer.
But you get to do these other fun things where you're like, you find yourself prototyping different concepts that are a little more applicable to the real world. And so 2 years ago, I started my practice because we had hit this inflection point where it felt like the real world technology was not just like catching up to science fiction, but in some ways it's fully surpassing it, right? And science fiction is still just showing us the same glowing blue bleepy bloops, and there's this whole other world of things that you can get into. And so what I'm going to be talking about is this concept of what it takes to design a positive future and how you do everything that you can to not get too caught up in the science fiction of it all, especially
I've talked, I mean, if you want to change the future, one of the best ways would be to travel back, maybe to the 50s and make a bunch of, we were really talking positive about science
like
fiction.
Solar punk over cyberpunk. It doesn't always have to be, these dark, glows. Sometimes it can be a more, I don't know, grounded in nature vibe, even for the future.
I mean, we know that the near term is going to be pretty disruptive on a technological perspective or landscape, but we also have been seeing nothing but the future portrayed as like mega dystopia.
Always.
Totally. Right? Like it's the darkest shit imaginable
I refuse to watch the new Black Mirror.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to put it in my brain.
And it's, you know, and I mean, I still love that stuff.
Yeah,
like I enjoy it, and I appreciate cyberpunk aesthetics and whatnot.
It's cool. I mean, we got some cyberpunk going on here.
But we shouldn't be making our real products and our real experiences, you know, they shouldn't be influenced or driven by that because it's like, that would look perfect after the apocalypse. You know, it's like, well, in order to get there, we have to live through the apocalypse.
Exactly.
Maybe we could avoid that.
I'm interested to know, back on the FUI thing, what was the typical software stack back then? Was it a lot of like After Effects and like, were you getting into like Cinema 4D and Houdini? I went to SIGGRAPH a couple of years ago, and there was a ton of cool like FUI projects. And then I want to know like, how has that evolved as we get into more generative projects? And there's just so many more things you can do. Even robust tools are more accessible just because you can search for what you want to do easier.
Yeah, absolutely. So you nailed it. When I started out with this stuff, it was After Effects, it was Cinema 4D, it's Houdini and
Blender
and Blender and, you know, a lot of these traditional platforms. And even when not working in film, our team finds ourselves using some of those tools and those approaches just to kind of like pre-prototype certain concepts or ideas. But also, I'm seeing now there's a lot more new tools and approaches, and of course, there's all the generative stuff. There's, you know, designing things, but designing things while you're in VR or in Apple Vision Pro or whatnot, so that you have this sense of scale. And you get this very different way. Like, I've been obsessed with Vision Pro since that came out, just as this thing where...
How many hours a week have you used it since launch?
So I know
not,
where you're,
not,
not I know where you're going with
I'm
this.
Legitimately interested. I'm not trying to do a gotcha, but I'm genuinely curious around, you know, is it an hour here or there sporadically,
it is at times. Like, it's a very intentional choice to be like,
sprint. You pull that tool out of the tool chest.
I'm gonna get it out of the drawer.
Totally.
Blow a little bit of the dust off of it.
Totally.
You know, put it on and go in. But I also find, particularly being creative in that space, for me, it reminds me of like the first time that I ever started using 3D tools or learning how to design on a computer, because like, it's almost like I've got the world's fastest 3D printer in front of me that can just like, you know, I was designing swag for our company and making, you know, a design that goes on a hoodie, and then viewing the hoodie at human scale and immediately being like, oh, well, now that I see it like in my space, like as if it's hanging on a hanger in front of me, I'm going to change this, I'm going to tweak this, I'm going to adjust
There's something about being in that virtual world that just makes the blank canvas more accessible. Like, I remember I had, this was before Apple Vision Pro, I think I had a Quest, and went into one of the modeling softwares that you could kind of just 3D draw whatever you wanted, exported that as OBJ, brought it into Houdini, and then it was so much easier to kind of tinker with and add like all the details on top, as opposed to having to start fresh with just like a blank canvas.
And to me, really hard. To me, so much of the excitement that I have around specifically Gen AI is taking the timeline from that high-level idea down to genuinely feeling what the end product could be like. Maybe it's not 100% what it will be, but yeah, it's once you can see something and interact with it, whether it's a digital product or, you know, even again like some type of 3D render in VR. Is just
and coming from a background in animation, the process would be, you know, you set your keyframes, you set everything up, and then you hit the render button.
And then you wait.
and then you're like, I'm gonna play the render now. And then you watch it, and you're either excited or you're like, there's 15 things I got to change right now, but it's going to be even better, you know. And it's really interesting, that sort of feedback loop that you get, and now that feedback loop is getting to be almost immediate, and having things be more, you know, the notion of spatial computing, it makes things a bit more intuitive or just natural at a certain point. Our practice got on everybody's radar early last year because we put together this prototype for what it would be like to watch a Formula One race.
Oh yeah, wait, you
spatial.
did that?
Yes.
Oh, that went
yeah.
super
Amazing.
viral. I
It
saw that. It
went-
was amazing. I had no idea that was you.
It went unbelievably
That was
viral
incredible,
for us.
yeah.
It was
Wow,
a wonderful
congratulations.
experience for us.
Yeah.
But it inspired a lot of people that are working in this space.
Yeah, yeah.
And there was a few different groups of developers who jumped in
Totally.
and started making their own prototypes
Yeah.
based on
So that was
that
basically like
initial
spec
concept.
work for you. You
was
weren't
totally-
paid by
totally-
F1 for that,
No, it
but
was totally speculative.
that's incredible.
Project just because we were really passionate about this
Yep.
$3,500
Totally.
array of sensors
Yeah.
and amazing tech, and we were super disappointed that like when we saw all the first demos of it, it was like cool. Put on this insane hallucination machine and use it to view
a 2D
rounded
screen.
rectangles
Yeah, right,
floating in
rectangle.
space,
Your
like,
inbox
yeah.
with
Yeah,
2,000 unread
Look,
emails.
look at that PDF, and
That's
we just
ideal.
saw like there's so much more that you could do with this, and so like that experience. And if you're a racing fan, there's a fully
so much
fully
sense.
functioning beta of
Yeah,
it
that's very
today.
cool.
That's amazing, and it changes the way that you experience this stuff.
Totally.
And you put it on, and you do like feel like Iron Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you also feel like, oh, this is so obvious. Like, of course, this is the way that we interact with things like this. So I'm just stoked that there's all these different things that are happening with these paradigms where we're still in the like Apple Newton days of all of these things, whether it's spatial, whether it's AI, and it's going to enable some amazing things that we can't even accurately predict until we've been living with these things for a while.
Can you talk a little bit about the reception of AI in Hollywood and the film industry? Like we were talking about how it takes a day to render. I remember when Redshift came out, we started rendering things on the GPU instead of the CPU. That was like a 10x increase in speed. Everyone loved it. Now we're like, oh, we're almost going too fast because it renders instantly. And obviously there's like job displacement issues. But in general, are there pockets of cautious optimism?
Yeah, and the only other context that I would add there is I think an interesting thing has been happening where good renders have always been expensive. Truly great renders have always been extremely expensive in context. And I think there was this idea maybe, starting a couple years ago, what's going to happen to the sort of craft of generating these types of assets. And the thing that I've seen happen is the okay renders are now available almost at a push of a button. They're not actually 3D assets, but the people that I know that are, truly, elite at the craft are actually busier than ever now because companies need to, in some ways, separate themselves again from the sort of average. But I'm curious what you're seeing.
Yeah, I want to be as cautiously optimistic as possible, but there's also a tremendous amount of stress across particularly the visual effects and animation community. A little less so than in digital product design, but I feel like there's a point at which that will start to catch up here as well. For me, these tools, there is something sad about this idea of like this tool is going to do the craft for you. For the people
because the craft is sometimes what's enjoyable.
I mean,
like the sweat
any
that
of
goes
the
into
people
it.
here love
The craft.
that aspect of it,
totally.
and they like the vision and creating, following through on that vision to create an amazing end result. But so much of that comes from the craft and applying yourself to that. And there's not a lot of this work where people are just like, oh, I wish, someone else could do all of this stuff for me. There is still, significant portions of this that people just love and enjoy. So I think that's interesting. Now I'm really curious about some of the models and some of the processes for figuring out how the creatives can have a little more control and a little more real-time manipulation and basically, are just closing up that feedback loop. And the other thing that's amazing to me is as soon as even in, 2022, first gen, mid-journey stuff, the only people that could make really good stuff with it were professional creative directors.
Totally.
Whose jobs it was to give clear, very articulate direction to achieve their goals and had, you know, the vocabulary and wisdom. And now, you know,
it's like you should study art history if you want to be great at prompting.
Yeah, like you find these like cheat sheets of like, hey, these are all the different
one
terms
SRAF and it just does
throw
it
in there and whatnot. So it's wild and it's interesting. You know, I'm excited because things will, you know, we'll get to the end point just faster and faster, and everybody becomes a production studio of sorts, and it does reinforce, you know, the need for a clear and articulate vision. But yeah, you know, I just want to make sure people can still hold on to the craft.
Totally.
Yeah. Are you excited about any of the kind of other product unlocks downstream? Like I was with my son. He made like this like little Lego thing. I was able to take it, Studio Ghibli, and then but like just showing the image was one thing, but when we printed it out, it was like, oh, this is something you could hang on the wall. And I feel like you kind of re-inject that creativity once 3D printing gets really good, or some sort of manufacturing. And I know you've done like product design in many ways. Are there things that you're excited about bringing? You know, yes, this one aspect of the work is collapsed, but then there's other ways to instantiate the vision.
Yeah, I think 3D printing is really, really epic, really exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point, it's also just going to be like, oh, and your humanoid robot will let itself out of the box and will craft whatever you instructed it to build.
Yeah, that's the next Figma config,
or whatnot.
Yeah, that's 2026.
Figma humanoid.
Humanoid.
So I bring that up partially because we've been doing some stuff with some of the leaders in the humanoid robotic space around like, how do you create like a face?
Oh, sure, yeah.
For these things, which is
some of them are so dystopian.
It's very bizarre.
I don't want to name names, but some of them are bizarre.
Really, really wild space, and it's
what
just
can
like
you share at a high level around what you think the inevitable face form factor is for humanoids? What's your optimistic vision?
Yeah, it's like Uncanny Valley.
I always think about
photoreal or like the Asimo, just like cute little happy face.
So
I think about the example of, you know, you get up, you know, let's say you get up at 4:30 a.m. You have an early day. You walk out to your kitchen, and your you know, humanoid is, you know, doing some dishes or something like that.
Sure.
And what's the face that's not gonna, you know, I think over time you get
jarring.
used to anything, but what's gonna be pleasant versus jarring?
Yeah.
So I even have a tough time imagining what's the ideal future, because I've been so obsessed with, well, what should it be today? Because they're already here.
Sure.
And I feel really strongly that today it should not have eyes and a mouth. It shouldn't be this thing that's developed to like approach you and be like, tell me, why do humans cry? You know, like it should be very crystal clear.
Yeah.
I'm a tool. I'm a really expensive like forklift or piece of industrial equipment, and just, you know, tell me what to do. You don't have to say please and thank you.
Should it even have a head?
You know, should it even have a head? I mean, there's, you know, and I could go on forever about like why even humanoid? You know, why work to those limitations of the human body, and whatnot. But it's a fascinating space. There's a ton of things that you have to unpack, and even just right now, the priorities are just like safety, making sure that, you know, nobody gets hurt or people can predict what a humanoid robot is going to do.
Did you see the video that I think came out of China a couple days ago, where the humanoid just goes AWOL?
Oh, that was in China. I saw that crazy kind of like something went wrong with the
not necessarily.
Code.
It didn't seem like
it probably wasn't trying to attack, but
it
did
was
you see
pretty
this
violent.
Crazy.
It's absolutely terrifying. I mean, it's like having it looks like it's throwing a fit. And
it doesn't look happy.
And now all I can imagine is like that's the scariest Black Mirror episode.
Totally.
Is the thing that was like loading your dishwasher. It didn't even mean to kill you. It just was like, I can't stop swinging my arm at 90 miles per hour.
Yep.
You know?
It's wild. Anything else you're excited to check out while you're here? Any other partners you're talking to here?
Oh, man. You know, there's many amazing people. There's a ton of wild talks that I want to check out. I've been spending a lot of time bumping into some friends that are in the automotive industry. I've done a ton of work in that space as well, which is like probably the digital experience that needs the most unfucking.
Yeah, totally. Most people just plug in their phone and then they get this very basic, like, Apple hasn't really refreshed CarPlay in years.
The positive is that manufacturers are realizing that people love analog buttons.
Oh, yeah.
Like analog.
The problem is they're realizing that today. which means that
won't
product
see it.
will be available in
2040.
about 7 years.
Brutal.
Because that's
long.
how long
Brutal.
it takes to go from
There's some
sketch to
manufacturers that
show.
are they figured out how to put buttons on top of the touchscreens. Have you seen this? Yeah,
Yep.
that's kind of a funny like hack because they're like, we just really want to do one big touchscreen, but somebody wanted a volume button, so we'll just glue that on and it'll be capacitive. So it just acts like a thing.
It's got like a little like sausage inside of it so that it activates the
touch screen basically. Such a funny thing. Well, anyway, thank you so much for stopping by.
coming.
Yeah.
Good luck with the rest of your config.
Good luck with your talk. You nervous?
I'm stoked. I'm excited.
Good. I think
I love
Old
doing
hat.
that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm nervous about walking around because there's just so many goddamn super
I
cool
agree with you on
people
this.
everywhere,
Yep.
and that
Not enough time.
that gets me into my.
We were at a
turtle
conference
shell.
last week, and one of our friends said he shook so many hands, his hand got bruised. It's crazy. So
Awesome.
stay healthy.
Thank you. Enjoy. Have a blast while you're here.
Yeah.
all
We'll talk
right?
to you soon.
All right. Take
Awesome.
care.
Bye.
Great to hang.
Yeah. It's fascinating. We have our next guest coming into the studio. I love the motion design DNA moving from film and television into the real world. We're finally able to instantiate some of the stuff, and you do see it pop up in real world devices, but it feels like Hollywood is always the best at defining some kind of new UI paradigm and then actually bringing it.
Hey,
into the real
what's
world.
going on? Great to meet.
Nice to meet you.
Great to meet you. I'm John.
Excited.
Welcome to the
excited
show.
to have you.
Feel free to throw on those headphones if you want. You'll be able
it'll
to
make
hear
it a
your
little bit
own
easier.
voice. But let's kick it off with a little introduction of yourself, who you are, what you do, why you're here, how you're enjoying the day, for those who don't know you.
Sure, yeah, I'm Elliot, and I am a designer and author. I'm here on speaking tomorrow, so I
Fantastic.
can relax today. I just
Nice.
like to enjoy it. I've just seen one of my very old friends do a fantastic presentation on
Is his
stage.
name Dylan Field?
Tim Van Dam.
Oh, cool.
And
Nice.
yeah, they just announced some amazing stuff, and it's
Amazing.
great to be here.
So what's
Yeah.
your talk about tomorrow?
It's about typography in design systems.
Very cool.
Give us the full backstory. I mean, I'll go out on a limb and say you're the godfather of type. It's a little bit dramatic, but certainly have had a massive
I'll take
influence
it,
on type online. So would love to kind of hear the full journey.
Cool. That's kind of you to say. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. I mean, I've been super lucky to kind of work in the type industry for many years. I did a bunch of stuff with Adobe fonts. I'm now actually doing some more stuff with Adobe fonts and Google fonts as well. And I like to kind of balance things like writing about typography and about design with actually being hands-on in the tools as well. And yeah, it's been great to just get to shadow everyone.
What is the structure of the industry? I imagine that there's the big players, Adobe, Google, like you mentioned,
Yep,
who are buying
sure.
lots of fonts, but then there's also companies that need whole fonts for their own brand systems and their design systems, I'm sure. So is that kind of the shape of the industry, or is there another player that's really important?
I mean,
how would
it's
you break it down?
It's the independent firms that make some of the fonts that you
Sure.
use and interact with
Yeah.
on a daily basis. Even some of the fonts that I'm sure we use at TBPN, but
Yeah.
but would love to understand the market structure.
Yeah, absolutely. I
point of
mean,
view.
those indie foundries that you mentioned
Yeah.
are kind of the backbone of the industry, really, because even you got folks like Adobe, for instance. That library is made up of a bunch of different foundry
Sure.
partners,
Yeah.
and so they are not owned by companies like Adobe. They are
Yeah.
independent practitioners.
Yep.
A lot of the time, they are like one-person bands. A lot of the
Yeah.
time, super indie. Obviously, you've got the folks like Monotype as well, who do own large libraries, and they have that IP. But the type industry is really just made up of a huge number of independent foundries who are then use those distribution channels like Adobe Fonts, et cetera, to get stuff on there. Monotype have My Fonts as well, which is also another big channel. And the differentiator there, I suppose, is like Google Fonts, they are open source.
Yeah.
And so they tend to not exist elsewhere, although Adobe Fonts does pull in those as well.
1 second, we're going to pull in Gary Tan. He's just stopping by.
Gary,
Hey, guys.
it's great to see you.
How you doing?
Great to see
I know you got to get out of here
Busy
quickly.
man.
Good to see you.
Busy man. It's great to see you.
How's your Figma config been?
Oh, it's been
today?
sick.
Yeah?
All I wanted to say was keep mogging, guys.
Thank
Keep
you.
mogging.
All right,
Always
we gotta
mog.
always be mogging.
We'll see you,
All right,
Gary.
be well.
I'm sure you know. You familiar with Gary?
I have not encountered
So
Gary yet.
he's the president of Y Combinator, also quite an accomplished designer. A bunch of the logos of some of the biggest companies. But anyways, good friends.
So I want to know more about the business model of working with Adobe. Is it like Spotify, where like you put your stuff up and then the more it gets used, the more you get paid? Or is it more like a one-off deal? Is it like selling a book?
Usage is
big piece of it?
shared to so the successful fonts that get more usage.
Okay.
They get more money. Yeah.
Basically.
Is it at the level where people are trying to pay influencers to use their fonts to promote them, go trendy,
no, I mean,
go viral?
So from my perspective,
how mature is the industry?
From my perspective, I mean, you can see this sort of hype cycle with individual fonts where, oftentimes, one designer will leverage a font in a really unique way, and then 3 months later,
everyone has to use it.
Sort of an explosion of sites using that.
Yep.
We've even had we've had people that have been maybe a little bit too inspired by what we're doing at TBPN actually, find the font that we use for our logo and sort of use that for their logo. It's all mostly fair game on the internet.
You can never predict how that stuff takes
Sure.
off as well. There is foundries obviously try and look at trends and see what's doing well and sometimes try to replicate that. But sometimes if something blows up and there's no real reason, it comes from maybe someone using it or whatever. And some foundries have done very well at that. I know some type designers who've struggled for many years and slogged away. Yeah. And they've released one thing, and it blows up, and they can go and buy a house.
Yeah, it's a hits business.
It's just like music. Exactly. It is like Spotify.
Totally, yeah.
It's amazing. Exactly. Are there specific eras of font design, typography design that you think of as you tell the story of how typography has evolved over the last, 50, 100 years or something?
I mean, it's driven by technology a lot when you think of the move from metal type, wood type, photo typesetting, early digital type. When you look at sort of what we know of as fonts these days, you got the 90s when folks like Font Shop really pioneered that, originally making them available on actual physical discs, and then obviously online, and that would really radically change things. And you had web fonts come along in around 2009, 2010, which before that you couldn't use anything on your websites other than Georgia, Arial, Ghana, Times New Roman, and people forget that was, a pretty huge thing for web design. And I was a web designer exclusively at that time, and it was kind of a wild time to be working on the web and with all this sort of new stuff that we had to play with. So
how is the industry reacting and responding to generative AI? I mean, I haven't played around with any tools around type myself, but I imagine we're not far away from somebody kind of saying, hey, I like these 3 fonts, generate me something net new. And
it is kind of odd that ChatGPT, when they generate images, they can now do text pretty effectively, but they're not using an actual font, library.
Like a source.
Source. It's kind of just creating its own on the fly.
Yeah, I mean, like everything with AI, it's just changing day to day. There are definitely some experiments going on. There are some entirely AI generated font generators, which have mixed results. But there are some tools, which will generate images, and as part of that, if text is part of that, there is some recent huge leaps been made in that. Like the designer Jessica Hish has been posting a bunch of stuff, some experiments she's been doing with ChatGPT, where she's a very accomplished lettering artist, but she's looking at what ChatGPT can actually put out, and it's actually, the progress is incredible. It's now its ability to actually do some half decent lettering is it's super interesting. Where you look at a few months ago, and you'd be lucky if you could even have the right words spelled correctly, or
that was always the most quick way to identify if something was AI generated was just how badly all the text was botched.
Exactly.
But it's certainly, it's
getting uncanny. We're pushing past the uncanny valley now. It's getting
how do
harder
you think
to
how do you expect kind of the business models of the industry to evolve? I imagine I can see it going, the way of fashion to some degree, where, maybe in the future you can get kind of a factory font that was just generated, but there's something about typography that's almost soulful, and you discover something, you can just see, you can feel the attention that was put into it. Where do you expect the kind of how do you expect kind of the industry to evolve and kind of the business models to evolve as you know, assuming, I think we can safely assume that generative AI will be, you know, twice as good at type in a year, right? Maybe more.
Yeah, I mean, totally AI-generated fonts are coming for sure. Like it's going to be a thing, and it is interesting for the business because at least in the US, you can't copyright a design. You can trademark a name. So you know, things like Helvetica are always going to be trademarked and owned by Monotype, but you can't copyright the outlines. So you know, it's interesting. Models can learn from all of the type that's out there. Also, type by its very nature is very systems-based. Sure. There's plenty of like maths in there and metrics and things which are, in a sense, easy to replicate. I mean, my hope personally is, as a creative person and a great supporter of all type designers out there, hope that there will always be a market for people who want to make type and have something very bespoke and something that's got a lot of feeling and love put into it. But for sure, AI fonts are coming, and I think it's going to massively disrupt the industry in the same way that all those previous technological advances also changed the font industry.
Give us some spice. Most overrated font, most underrated font. Take some shots.
Yeah,
I want to hear.
I don't know.
You can go way back.
Let's see. Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, I have some very
maybe
good
meta commentary. What does the community typically say is overrated?
I mean, the community tends to people like free stuff, right?
Sure.
So a lot of people use stuff from places like Google Fonts that provide fonts for free, and that's great. There was some superb quality stuff, and they've done a lot of work recently to really improve the technical quality of their library. But it's important to remember that when you're using something for free, obviously lots of other people are also using it for free.
Yeah.
So to get that differentiation, still the kind of easy hack is to effectively to pay for a font, whether that's through a subscription service like Adobe Fonts or just buying the font outright from the Foundry. So that's always a good way to get something that's super unique.
Yeah, amazing.
Well, thank you so much. I think we have our next guest
Yeah, this
ready
is
to
great.
come in.
Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you for having me.
Good luck with your talk tomorrow.
Thanks so much. Hope you get to tune in.
We'll see you on the internet.
All right,
Yeah,
see
we'll
you
see
then.
ya.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys. Cheers.
This is great. And we have Andrew Reed coming into the studio next.
An
Second
absolute
time
dog.
appearance. I'm sure he is doing deals out there, writing term sheets on napkins, finding the next Figma.
There he is.
How you doing,
What's
Andrew?
going on?
Welcome.
Am I live?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
you're
live.
live.
You can throw on the headphones, talking to the microphone. How are you doing? Good to meet you in person.
There we go.
Thank you
Yeah.
guys for having me.
What's
Is it
going
too
on?
loud? You might be able to adjust it, but
No,
you
it's
should be good.
perfect.
Okay, great.
Uh,
Yeah, how's it been? Is this your first config, or have you been coming for a long time?
This is my fifth.
Yeah, I was gonna say very, very bad investor if he's just like, oh, I guess now that
We can't
Figma's a
make
big
it-
deal, you know, I guess I'll show up.
I remember back when we got a standing ovation for the font picker. You know,
Wow.
the first of two standing ovations for the font picker.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
No, I mean today feels monumental just given the scale of the event, but also the launches, the people that were doing a standing ovation for the font picker. I'm sure they're here today, seeing the 4 massive launches.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it's massive.
Yeah, I mean, what was the precursor to config? Were there like little user group meetups? You hear about that with like the story of Instagram, where like
Yeah.
Kevin would like go running with the early group, which there were only 100 people on the service, but he still was doing that customer development. Do you remember kind of the arc of how we got here?
Well, for me, so yes. Well, I remember predating our investment in Figma. We were involved with GitHub, which is GitHub Universe, which was like kind of the same sort of a vibe in actually very similar venues.
Yeah.
It was the open source developer ecosystem.
Yep.
And I remember sitting through some of those universes back in the mid 2010s and thinking, like, I'm never going to be involved with a company that can do something like this.
Yeah.
You know, just having like the true vibrant community, like people actually want to show up.
Yep.
I was like, that was a cool thing to be involved with. And then like I go to the first config, and it was in a room that's like the size of the Maker Studio thing now, and it was just like buzzing.
Yeah.
And I remember whenever I come to config, like I really feel like I'm cosplaying. Like I like making websites, but like some say I apply like a design-like creativity to my Excel sheets.
Yeah,
I was about
to say.
An artist.
Let's say I'm an artist in Excel.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's funny. I'm so used to. I go to these.
ECF.
I go to these events with with my daughters, like for school and stuff, and they're, you know, there's always like a long line of people for face painting, and there's plenty of face painting supplies, but there's only like 2 or 3 people who can actually do the face painting.
I see where you're going.
I was walking around here like, man, like everybody here could be the most amazing face painter. You know, it's like, you know, I could just bring my kids and the face paint and have it all solved. Yeah.
No, the talent density is wild.
Yeah. On the topic of like these annual releases, Brian Chesky recently said like part of founder mode is like, even if you're a company that can do non-waterfall, more agile development, more iterative releases, it helps to get on an annual cadence. Not talking about Figma specifically, but is that something that you think is correct advice for big companies, small companies? Is it going to become increasingly popular? Because the Airbnb, Brian, the Chesky memo kind of shook Silicon Valley. I know Ryan Peterson at Flexport was like, we're doing that too.
Yeah.
At the same time, people have been looking at Apple and saying, hey, AI is moving too fast, Apple. You can't wait to launch your next thing for a full year.
Works well with iPhones.
You should be dropping software updates every single month and just telling us, okay, you improved it. So there's a little bit of like a balancing act there. But what do you think of the overall trend of these annual kind of agenda-setting events versus something that's like you could kind of blend the two?
Yeah, I think as software and technology has gotten easier to create, it has just gotten so much harder. And as there's more companies that have gotten started and there's more venture capital, and like I remember back when you could, you get a TechCrunch article written about your product launch, and it would, you drive all this signups, and it was like this amazing thing. And it's just so much harder to stand out now. Like there are so many companies launching amazing stuff constantly. And just as a, like the Red Queen dynamic, like just to stay in place, you have to be doing, usability improvements, AI upgrades, et cetera, to your product every single week, just to like kind of maintain.
Not fall behind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then I think as it relates to like genuine product launches, I think, and even for the stuff that's launched today, there's an alpha, there's a beta, right? So there's, you kind of have to do the user testing in sync with this. But yeah, it's pretty freaking cool to show everybody the things that you spent a year working on and rally your team around a deadline, And like knowing the Figma team, like this date has kind of been in the back of everyone's heads for a very long time.
Well, and it's such a, we can kind of be understated, but Dylan and the Figma team are making a huge statement coming in with, sites, make, buzz, like these are, they can come out with a V1 now, but my expectation is they become, very, very significant pretty quickly.
Yeah. I mean, obviously you're here to support Dylan, but has Figma grown into a type of ecosystem where there are other potential power loss startups building in and around? Because you see that with a lot of companies. I mean, Zuck was just talking about it with like Facebook ultimately becoming a platform at a certain point. There's been a lot of companies that have built on top. Exactly. Is there a story around like the broader design ecosystem that's taking hold, or is the venture capital community still just kind of like laser focused on Figma by itself?
I think Figma has supported and enabled a broad network of plugin developers for a long time, and I think a lot of the power of Figma, comes from what Figma enables, but also comes from the ecosystem around it. That applies to things like templates, right? And to these plugins. So I think Figma, from a architecture standpoint, Figma was a platform before it became the platform, right? And I do think it is the center of a community and a center of a community of products. And I love the mission of trying to eliminate the gap between imagination and reality. These are not just face painters, right? They're like the most creative people in the world who also love technology. And I think for people with minds like that, allowing them to do so much more, that's like one of the coolest things a company can do. So.
How do you think about design trends in the decks that you get pitched? I mean, if Figma launched a deck designer, obviously just design is becoming more accessible, it's becoming more affordable, and also I feel like there's a little bit of just a meme in Silicon Valley that, hey, like if you're going out for a Series A, it's not unreasonable to spend $10K, 50K on design for your deck. At the same time, that can totally be like Band-Aid on a bullet wound if you're not actually building a great business. So I imagine as an investor, there's a little bit of like, don't fall for the pretty design, but we've seen trends where, I mean, for a while there were like a ton of direct-to-consumer companies that were just getting funded, and it was like, oh, you went to the exact same brand thing that the Warby Parker guys went to, or whatever.
No, it's funny. I remember, this is gonna definitely date me.
Yeah.
We used to print out all these decks, right? You would like, get the deck and you just hit print, and I remember.
Then it started being black.
No, and then for the first, so we
black backgrounds.
For the first, I'm gonna send this clip to Joe at Loom, Joe and Vinay from Loom. For the first board meeting for Loom, they did like a 130-page deck in like dark mode squared, right? It was like the level of dark gray versus modestly less dark gray and these stacked bar charts was impossible. And I came into the board meeting with this printout, and it looked just like basically like a bunch of black pages. Look, we've already lost like $400 on this investment because we have like burned through our entire printer ink, and I can't figure out what the hell's going on in our business, So anyway, we switched that one to light mode. But I do think like presentation, it's like anything in business, at its core, it's like the Don Valentine thing is storytelling, right?
Yeah.
And visual storytelling is imperative to fundraising, it's imperative to sales, and I think having the right set of assets to tell your story, it really matters. I actually do think like spending the money to create a presentation that really captures your idea, your ethos of what you're trying to build is like totally worth it. And there's also the flip side that you can do it in the Times New Roman, the Sprezzatura presentation, or like, so you can go that path, like look how little we tried, or you can do the really good.
Every once in a while, you see a deck from someone who's like coming out of an enterprise and has like deep institutional knowledge, and they're probably going to build something really cool, but they just don't understand design or even how to speak Silicon Valley's language at all. And you're like, okay, I got to like, actually read between the lines.
No, the worst is when you get the ones that are, and as a, I used to work at Goldman Sachs. As a former banker, I love my investment banker friends. When you get all of a sudden it's a Series B company, and they hire the head of finance and operations from Goldman, and then you get the 98 years of combined industry experience, like highly seasoned management team. Say, we're not doing this.
John and I have 20 years of combined experience in technology media.
Exactly.
So,
I've never met a management team that's not highly seasoned.
I mean, Dylan was brand new. Right?
I'm curious. Do you think there's the lore around Figma is that Dylan and it's Evan, right?
Yep.
Dylan and Evan, spend years, basically in obscurity, building this product. Today, if a founder was building a SaaS tool and they were 3 years in and didn't have like a product that they were letting people actively use, I think most investors would write it off. I almost feel like it almost ended up being an anti-lesson, that sort of 4-year period of obscurity, because they were pioneering the use of WebGL for, browser collaboration. And have you ever found yourself kind of like pushing back on founders that are like, well, Dylan and Evan spent, 4 years getting their products?
I know exactly what you mean. So I think it's a little bit like, for decks, you can either do we really didn't try at all, or we made it look beautiful. I think with companies, similarly, you can do we're going to iterate constantly in the market and find our way to product market fit, or you can do we have a concrete vision and we're going to build what we want to build. And when we launch it, it's going to work. I think the in-between area where you're just like slowly maneuvering off of your initial course, like that's, I think, the really unhappy path.
And
I think we've done so many retrospectives and like analyses on what are the commonalities between the big outlier companies. And the reality is, if you look at most of Silicon Valley history, the length of time it took you to get from nothing to $1 million of revenue is basically uncorrelated with how fast your company grows. But how fast you go from 1 to 10 is highly correlated. So basically it's like, you're trying to coil a spring, and most of the companies that really make it go very fast out the gate, but take a variety of times to get into
I mean,
the
I think
yeah.
the most recent example, probably OpenAI, like, literally a nonprofit for a decade, and then all of a sudden $1 billion in like a couple months. Do you think that there's like?
Well, actually, one more Figma
sure.
lore story that I'm never gonna. I just so this is a Doug Leone story. So I think
of course,
it's time to give Doug his shine. So when we were doing our Figma investment, this was January 2019, and I was an associate, so I was like doing my best to position ourselves, and I thought we're totally gonna do this investment. Like Dylan loves us, and I was, but just in case I'm gonna bring Doug in to
bringing the big dog.
And so Dylan and Evan are coming down to our office in Menlo Park. We had already given them a term sheet, and we're just trying to show them how much we love them.
Is that the term sheet in that photo?
Yeah, the one that got like someone did the CIA analysis to figure out all the terms.
They reversed.
That was a hand. That was my bad to our comms team. And we're about to do the meeting, and Dylan and Evan both went to Brown, and Brown's one of our LPs. And we have all of our conference rooms at Sequoia named after our LPs. And when we were going to do this meeting in the MIT conference room, and then I was just like, it's a much nicer conference room than the Brown conference room. The Doug was like, no, we're doing this in the Brown conference room. And like maybe 10 minutes before the meeting, he moves the meeting to Brown, and then he goes into our system and prints out a page with like all of the amount that Brown had invested in our various funds over the years and how much we had returned back to Brown.
Wow.
And sits down, we talk about Sequoia and all the stuff that we're doing. And he puts this piece of paper out, and Brown is where Dylan and Evan met. It's where a lot of the early work at Figma kind of began. And I was like, this guy freaking rocks.
Wow,
I was about to be just like hanging in the MIT conference room with no plan. So anyway, that's Doug.
The alumni,
the
alumni
detail
playbook
is crazy. To actually go that extra step.
Did you have fun at Brown? Well, we played a part.
Yeah, exactly.
Switching gears a little bit, are you surprised at how Gen AI seemingly came for image creation before product design in some ways? Like, yes, you can use Gen AI to generate screens of various products, but you would think that would be a lot of the product designers I know are still doing this sort of handcrafted work to design flows and features and things like that. And meanwhile, if you want to generate an image of the three of us sitting in a podcast studio, you can do that instantly.
Yeah, I've been generally surprised at the order of things that have come out of this generative AI ecosystem in general, right?
Yeah.
Like I remember back when people were, self-driving truck wave, and there was all this concern about blue-collar jobs, and everyone should learn how to code, and you fast forward 5 years, and it's like, well, that was a very seemingly poor take, in hindsight.
Same thing with radiologists.
Yeah, exactly.
They almost all have their jobs still.
Yeah.
And who is it? Was it Hinton? Or I don't know, I forget. It was someone, big machine learning foundational researcher was saying, like, stop training them.
Yeah, it's
Still hasn't happened.
Yeah, how stuff, and I think ultimately it's kind of what I was saying about creativity earlier. I genuinely think it's not because of a difficulty of the problem or some underlying architectural thing. I think it's just like, like look at the image editing models that came out of amazing diffusion work, right? And that just happened at a point in time because of the creativity of a group of people. And it's amazing, right? And I think that same sort of thing, bottoms up creativity, creating massive technology innovation, like has been the story for this whole wave. I think that will continue to be the story. And I think predictions from people, who are the spreadsheet types are going to consistently be proven wrong.
Yeah. Do you think that there's a Dylan Field out there right now, kind of grinding in silence for 4 years, and then we'll come out with something disruptive, or does that pattern not even work in the age of the internet?
Well, Sequoia's
probably already gonna check in.
Well, the thing with Dylan is interesting. Is like, haven't you guys known Dylan for a long time? Like Figma was grinding for a long time.
Yeah.
But it's not like they were grinding in true silence, right? Like Dylan and Evan were in seven. Evan, absolute genius.
Yeah.
Dylan, very engaged in the ecosystem. He's a Teal Fellow.
Yep. We were wondering about those early rounds because it seems like going back to 2014, 2015, like doing a $20 million Series A, even a $4 million seed round. Like that's not easy, even if you're a hot company.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. But
Yeah, they were engaging. Actually, like interestingly, so many of the people who I've run into already today were people who were like the early users of Figma when it was still a developing product.
Sure.
And those people, they didn't hear about it and want to try it and sign up. Like that's customer development, right? Like Dylan was like one of these true grassroots growth people, in addition to the the kind of product
mind
visionary, exactly, and like building this community. It's like everything that is magical in what's that John Collison? The John Collison tweet around like it's a museum of passion projects, right? Like this community doesn't just happen, right? Like it starts with a spark, and I think that spark really is Dylan. Like I remember there's a guy named Soleo Cuervo who's the first product designer at Facebook.
Yeah.
He now does some investing. He's an amazing guy.
Yeah.
And I remember he told me about Dylan. Back when Figma wasn't even around yet, and he was just like, "This guy's gonna be amazing." And it's funny. He's introduced me to like 4 people, and one was Dylan, and then one was Guillermo from Brazil.
Oh wow!
It's no more opt-in. You know what I mean? If you got somebody, send it my way.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
On the note of you said Dylan kind of creating this spark of community, I think that when startup founders talk about community, it's almost like a meme, because usually the first context that they're using it in is like, oh, we should have a dinner. And it's like, to me, like a community is not like getting a room at a nice restaurant and just like getting people to show up and eat free food. Like this is a community of people that have traveled from, basically every, bunch of different continents all the way here, taking time out just to be immersed with this group. And it just feels like community is ultimately created at the product level to some degree.
Yeah.
Like you can kind of like...
Well, I completely agree with this. And to me, like I was thinking about this morning, I wish everyone could have seen the keynote. Like it was so awesome.
Yeah, it was like watching a rock star.
Like the room, the room it's so big. There's like so many people in that room.
It's massive.
Like I didn't...
And it was standing room only at the back.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. But then it's like 9,000 people, right?
Yeah.
It's like, imagine seeing a slide with 9,000 monthly active users, right? It's like nothing, you know. But 9,000 people is a lot of people, right?
Yeah, totally.
And to me, it's your users aren't just numbers. Your users are people, right? And the nucleus of this community are people who travel from Southeast Asia to be here, travel from Europe to be here, travel from Africa to be here, and that core 9,000 MAU has such a loud voice and the ability to like really propel a company forward. And if you put those 9,000 MAU into a room, it looks like that, right?
Yeah,
like it's enormous.
Yeah.
And finding the ability to like get that level of a nucleus, I think, is like it's a product thing, right?
Yeah.
You don't just buy them dinner.
Yeah.
I know you can't talk about public companies too much, but I'd love to know if you have any interpretation of what's going on with the Mag 7 right now, as far as like an opportunity for startups. Like today, what was the news with Google? They traded down based on Apple's
VP of Services basically came out and said that for the first time, searches in Safari like shrank month over month. And
it just seems like there's just general chaos in big tech, whether it's Google potentially splitting up or the pressure on Facebook for Instagram. It just feels like that could be fertile ground for startups.
Yeah.
At the same time, a lot of people have been saying artificial intelligence, it just reads as a sustaining innovation, not necessarily a disruptive innovation. But what are you... what is the level of optimism around the next generation of founders right now, given what's going on with these very well-run companies that are often in founder mode or have amazing management teams and fortress balance sheets?
I think I forget whose law it is that you as a company ship your org chart.
Oh yeah, I know that one.
I'll look it up afterwards.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Reed's law now.
Yeah. Reed's law too. I think the idea that AI will be a sustaining innovation. I think it's probably like far enough along now to call that like mostly wrong so far. And I think it comes from that grassroots creativity combined, small number of people, especially with AI, can do so much. I think that's one of the things that I was thinking about listening to the Figma keynote is like, if the origin of Figma was specific, verticals inside of companies, designers, developers, marketers, content people, legal, coming together and collaborating to move this like very complicated process from idea through to deployment. Now, any one of those people can basically do all of those jobs. And I think that's something that we are like definitely seeing. And so small number of people can do so much more, and you aren't encumbered by shipping your org chart because you are the org chart, right? Like it's, and you can just put out amazing experiences. And I think some of these big companies, what you see is, they'll have amazing models or products or ideas, but they just don't even let you find them. It's like the Notebook LM thing, right? Like, oh my gosh, that was sick, right? And then like, now what?
The fact that we're using past tense for a breakthrough Google product is so crazy.
And it was 6 months ago.
I know.
And it's funny because
we shouldn't be using past tense. We should be like, it's still great.
Yeah.
There's probably somebody
all of a sudden you guys are in trouble. It's like,
yeah.
There's probably some app in the App Store that's just Notebook
there's
LM
10
clone
of
that's
those.
like doing 10 million of ARR.
We were talking about this idea that like there's the ChatGPT wrapper meme, and then the recent news of OpenAI acquiring Windsurf. I was debating this with Jordy, like, is it kind of game on for wrapper M&A? Maybe that doesn't affect how you're underwriting investments at Sequoia, but do you think that there are other venture firms that see a multi-billion-dollar outcome as something that changes how they underwrite? Like, if the M&A markets at that level are open, does that change the risk-on nature of early stage venture, maybe in like the mid-market, or do you think it should just be business as usual?
I got a lot of questions that were similar to this after we mutually called off the Figma deal with Adobe.
Yeah.
And some of that, how does this change your underwriting of an investment?
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know what this administration is going to do, let alone the next one.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, and the gestation period for these companies is sufficiently long that like what's going on today, I don't think really will be able to change your investment criteria today.
Yeah.
Now, what you do with your companies might change, right? Whether it's, you're looking to buy smaller companies, you have things that you're going to end up selling to bigger companies. But as it relates to the actual like investment criteria, at least for Sequoia, we are looking for the big outlier companies, one of ones, the future aircraft carriers. But obviously, you pay attention to the news, and obviously you pay attention to what the administration is going to do.
Yeah, I was thinking about it more just from this idea that if like foundation model companies aren't necessarily going to steamroll the application layer, even regardless of the administration, just this idea that foundation model companies, it feels like they need dance partners in a lot of different areas. We saw this with the X and XAI merger, so the social. Who are we talking about? Like, should Anthropic buy Snap? And I'm just wondering if there's more.
That was a lesson.
Are you guys are having Sonia on? I think on Friday.
Yeah, on Friday.
You should talk to Sonia about this.
Okay, we'll talk to you about that.
And that she gave a presentation basically on this exact topic.
Okay, great.
And I could, try to copy what she said and do a poor job. Or
What were the other takeaways from? I assume you went to AI Ascent.
Oh yeah.
What were the big takeaways other than we found out that Jensen Huang's jacket is Ferragamo?
Oh, we did find that out.
attendee.
I know.
It's leaked.
It's leaked
from us.
It's sold out everywhere.
Yeah.
It's sold out everywhere.
Yeah. Shout out Alfred. That was a great trade.
Oh yeah, he did the jersey swap.
Jersey swap. That's
you're up
legendary jersey swap.
It's legendary.
Man, that's
hang it in the halls.
Cool.
Yeah.
I would just leave it. That
You gotta frame that.
Frame it. I would like ossify it somehow. Put it on a It's like
that's great.
I think Alfred's jacket was.
Yeah. What's the state of the Sequoia merch team? Have you guys explored anything as unique as a jacket?
Well, I was thinking for this one, this is all of a sudden we can somehow turn it into a statue, and then that's like an operating budget. We can sell that for
$1,000.
Totally.
You don't see a lot of Sequoia merch floating out there. You guys are hold it close.
Very
to the chest.
subtle. Yeah.
Subtle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Versus.
But anyway, other takeaways from AI Ascent. Who was interesting?
I think it was vibe-wise. It was it's so much smaller than this room.
Yeah.
But I think vibe-wise, it was really amazing. We held it for a few years now.
Yeah.
Predating, I think, GPT-3.
Yep.
And it's been you know, like a lot of the same sort of people, right? Like the people who started working on this early, really passionately, are still the ones who are kind of at the bleeding edge.
Yeah. Is there more focus on like energy, scale, data center build out, or like new algorithms? Because a lot of people are scale pilled. Scale's all you need. That are less in Rich Sutton. And then on the flip side, there's some folks that are saying like, hey, maybe we're actually topping out. That seems like a really foundational question.
Yeah, we had a little bit of both. We had a little bit of both. Yeah. And I think the practical reality is the answer is just yes, like both.
Just both, yeah. Of course, why not better algorithms at higher scale?
Yeah, and it's going to be both.
Yeah. So something that I've been trying to dig into more is like, when are we going to see other models scale up to the size of like the big transformer from the GPT models?
Yeah.
Like it feels like we're getting there with diffusion, certainly not there with robotics, even though some of the robotics companies are now saying like, hey, we have the end-to-end models, we have, you know, big data sets. But they're not yet talking about, hey, we're building the massive data center. We're doing the 100K H100s or anything. That seems like a really critical like discussion point, especially for like where the next applications go, because it does seem somewhat specific. It doesn't feel like I was talking to the founder of Etched, and he was saying like no, I actually think like you will just be able to train a robot to walk by having it read every book on walking. I was like, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I read the book on walking.
I read every book, and but there is something there where it's like, yeah, if you're training a humanoid robot, like why not just feed it all the data possible, including all the images and all the videos and everything. Just the more it knows, the better, and that just builds like the stronger world model.
Yeah,
anyway.
I'm trying this with with my kids, right? It's like, just walk. You know?
Yeah.
And it works.
It does.
It just works.
Yeah.
So there's a way to do it.
Yeah. Anything else before we move on?
No, this is fantastic.
This is fantastic. Thank you so much for
thanks
stopping
for being
by.
here.
Have,
it was great.
Sonia on.
Yeah, great. And I will tune in later today.
Yeah,
see you
absolutely.
Guys.
We'll
Good
see you.
Dude.
Bye.
Peace.
Thanks for coming.
Bye. Always a fun time with Andrew Reed from Sequoia.
The best.
Legendary investor, one of the greatest to ever do it. And we have our next guest.
Still cooking.
Still cooking.
Excited for the next 40 years.
Yeah, I'm bummed we couldn't make the AI Ascent thing. It would have been very good, but we had a lot of travel going on.
A lot of birthday.
Anyway,
There's a lot of event, but
fantastic.
What's going on? Thanks for coming.
Welcome to the stream. Would you mind kicking us off with an introduction for those who might not know you? What's your name? What's your company?
And your camera, by the way, is over there, but you can just chat with us here.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Marty Ringline, CEO, co-founder of Agree.com.
Great. And
Great
what is
domain.
Agree.com?
It's a better DocuSign.
Okay.
The best part is it's totally free. So
Yeah.
free e-signature for everyone. But what makes it really special is we've combined invoicing and payment.
Okay.
So at the end of most signatures, somebody has to pay someone
Yeah,
money.
yeah.
We just brought it all together.
Okay, when
It's
I
the
hear
most annoying-
free, I think, am I the product? What's going on? Are you selling my documents to foreign countries or something?
We operate like a fintech, right?
Okay,
We monetize
that
on the
makes
payments.
sense. On the
right?
payment
Very
side.
Yep, so
It's-
it operates
it's-
a lot like Stripe.
Sure.
I can't tell you how many times I feel like it's mostly with home services where I'm paying like for pest control and I'm like signing, I'm like signing something and then I'm like, okay, like I'm ready, again, I'm ready to pay. And then it's like, oh, well, like Zelle me or whatever. I'm just like, really, like this should be
All in
built
one.
into one. What, I'm curious, what markets have you guys really focused on initially?
We're at Figma. Designers, agencies, freelancers, solopreneurs are obvious ones. But the big B2B SaaS sales, especially in tech startups, they're just moving so fast. The growth trajectory is there. And then I think you pointed out something that's really interesting where if I say you have net 45 to pay, I think most of us think, oh, I'll pay on the 46th day. I'll stretch it out as long as I can. But usually we want what's on the other side of that transaction so bad. We want to pay quicker. I want my pest control done. I want my roof fixed. I want my contractor started. I want my SOC 2 compliance quicker. So like delaying the invoice just doesn't make any sense, right? I want to go from execution of agreement. I want to pay quickly. Like, don't stop that. That's such a manual process right now. Everyone takes executed agreement, they send it over to finance. Somebody in finance manually creates an invoice, manually sends it over. It's just, it's kind of weird in 2025.
Yeah. I got to ask, how did you get the domain?
Yeah, so it was always Agree. We knew that was the word. But one day we're pitching, and my co-founder says to me at the end of the pitch, the investor missaid. He said Agree.com. It's like, oh, that could be a problem.
Got a nice ring to it.
He's like, hey, did you ever go to agree.com? I was like, no, I don't know. What if it's a porn site? So we go, and it's clear that it hasn't had love in a number of years.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I know there's a privacy policy, and a privacy policy is going to be a legal entity. I track it down. I find the owner of that legal entity, and then it was 4 months of pestering and wooing, and, because he's a high net worth individual. He didn't need to let it go for the money that we paid.
Did he make you give you some equity?
No, we did all cash.
Okay.
But I did have to eventually sell him on the vision and the dream. Like,
Sure.
be a part of the story.
Yeah, like it'll be used for good.
And I will never not do one of these interviews where that question won't come up.
Yeah,
He will be like, yeah, I was at the beginning of
That's
this
great.
thing.
That's great.
Probably early.com guy, I imagine, just sat on a bunch
big
of
domainer.
domains. Fantastic.
He picked it up a few years ago for like $75K at an auction.
Oh, wow.
Domain
Okay,
auction,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow. What's the go-to-market been like? I imagine that there's some sort of like almost like viral loop where somebody sends something and then they get a chance to sign up and then you kind of grow from there. Is there like a positive viral coefficient with this?
Oh, yeah. And it's one where I pitched it just like that in the pre-seed. Didn't realize how fast it would kick in and then like how substantial that would be to us. So we launched the product September 4th. In a month, there was 1,000 users.
Wow.
Hey, not bad.
Yeah.
30 days later, 10,000 users. It's like,
Wow.
okay, that's impressive. And then 7 weeks after that, it doubled to 20,000. But when I looked at those users, a third of them, they came to us. Their origin story is someone sent them to docs to sign on the platform. So they signed. They're like, oh, let me give this thing a shot. So that's kicked in. That's been awesome. So we'll always talk about our customer, but then our customer's customer is vitally important to us. And then now, the go-to-market's just, we see the same thing on the invoicing side. So it's just more, the customer base itself is the biggest distribution engine.
How big is the company? I imagine it's like several thousand. Are you in tens of thousands of it yet in terms of just employees? 'Cause I know
no, we're
to run one of these businesses, typically it's 5 figures of employees, typically?
Yeah. Everyone likes to remind that DocuSign 7,000 people.
That's how many it is?
I chat GPT'd it. It would take 4 Titanics to fit all the employees of DocuSign. But we're a team of 8, and I think this is what you're...
8 people.
Well, it's what you're
Not
seeing
8,000?
right now,
Doing
right?
the impossible.
That's right.
The impossible.
Better
DocuSign execs
technology.
look at you guys and they're like, we don't know how they do it.
That's right.
Payments too. We need to double.
Unfathomable.
Yeah, everyone always wonders what are they all doing over there?
Yeah.
Do you actually have a? I'm curious if you have a read. I was always surprised that after Twitter was able to lay off such a huge amount of the workforce, I was surprised that didn't inspire other similarly drastic cuts. Are you surprised in general at some of these more scaled enterprise companies that they haven't tried taking a leaner approach yet?
I think one of the secrets behind some of the B2B SaaS in Silicon Valley is that there are an enormous amount of humans that power what we think is technology. And there's some companies where you can tell between like December 21st and January 1st, the servers have gone down or something's not working. Like, oh no, the humans are gone, right? They're out of the office.
This is a service as a software.
That's right. And so I think for some of these organizations, you need a huge customer service staff, a huge support staff to make it all work because they're pushing buttons and pulling levers behind the scenes. And so the tech deck is just so enormous that they can't scale back even though they know they need to. And I think this is what we're seeing with AI. We know smaller teams can do more, they can do it faster. Now, how do they start automating their workflows with agentic AI or whatever tools they might be putting into place?
Yeah, that's awesome.
So you're here specifically pitching designers and studios. Who is the current customer avatar that you're going after at Config?
So at 8, we got to do everything and anything to build the brand.
Sure.
So
I saw some flyers that were just hanging out
I've got
here.
a stack of them
I saw
out
a
there.
stack of flyers. I was like, oh, he's doing.
I've got
an official partner.
coffee cart out front
that
I push, and I make cold brew coffee.
That's great.
For people, me and my co-founder Will.
Yeah.
But this conference is going on, right?
Yeah.
Thousands of people here.
Totally.
May 6th through 8th at Moscone West.
Yeah.
Turns out Stripe Sessions is right across the street.
Yeah.
The same dates within the same block radius. And my ICP's here. Why would I not be here? So what I do, I'm here handing out cards, knocking on doors, giving out free coffee, whatever it takes. But just build that brand, get them to know what it is. Because for us, it's an amplification. The big announcement just went out about our seed round. And so now we're doing interviews like this and just want people being like, oh, Agree's everywhere. Well, it's not everywhere. It's just everywhere that I know you're looking and you're listening and you're reading.
Yeah, break down the round for us. How did it come together? Who's in?
Yeah, so it was exciting because we
raised... That was yesterday.
That was yesterday. Yeah. So this is perfect timing. We had closed $3 million pre-seed in March of last year. We launched in September. And then once those viral loops started hitting, and there was some interesting traction. And so we had a number of investors start reaching out to us towards the end of the year, expressing interest. We were going to go to market with a round either right before the summer or right after the summer. But then a few folks asked to preempt and just say, hey, let's just do it now. So,
do it now.
Yeah. So we thought, let's formally go to market on January 6th, and then it closed in 2 weeks, which was a wild.
There we go.
Yeah, so it was beyond our own expectations. And then we just made the big announcement yesterday.
It's great to get it out.
That's great.
I'm curious, was some of the early pushback from investors, there's always pushback, even if people are generally bullish. You're just like, why hasn't anyone done this before, or doesn't this already...
This feels pretty counterposition against DocuSign, right? Because like it would be a massive upending to their business model.
It cannibalizes their pricing model.
No. I know it's highly disruptive, but you know, if you look back somewhere around 2 years ago, it felt like a lot of traditional SaaS, and we were like out of new traditional fintech and SaaS ideas. But the thing that became obvious is if you just, brought a new approach or a disruptive, pricing model.
Took a simple idea deadly serious.
Exactly.
So the biggest pushback was, this is too obvious.
Yeah.
Why doesn't this exist?
Yeah.
So and that was a great question, because I'm like, glad you asked.
Yeah.
Because what I'll always say in the pitch at that point is, this is the last time we'll ever actually talk about DocuSign, because this is about payments. This is about fintechs. This is about AR automation.
Sure.
And it becomes very clear that the second question they shouldn't ask me is like, what if DocuSign did this? DocuSign can't become a payments company. The real question I'd have is, what happens if Stripe across the street decides they want to do e-signature?
Sure.
That would be disruptive.
Yeah.
That's really interesting to me. What if they decided that owning the contract as a source of truth to revenue was really impactful to financial and CFOs? Like, that would be really interesting.
Well, hopefully they're not listening.
Yeah. Well, the problem is you still have to be really
They
good
have their
at
conference
document
right now, and we're
Yeah,
live.
they're busy, so they can't be
That's
listening.
right.
They're watching backstage.
We know John and Patrick are on stage. They can't be watching this right now. That's great. What was your background before this?
Yeah, so longtime entrepreneur, had a startup back in 2007 that it got acquired by Twitter in 2012.
Oh, cool.
Had a few exits, a few other startups in between, but most pertinent to this one is me and two of the folks that worked with me even at that first company. We started up a fintech that got acquired by Brex.
Oh.
And Brex brought us into build out expense management.
Sure.
It's specifically invoicing, bill pay. Yeah. And this is like right before we all meet our friend ChatGPT, but before the GPT-3 beta goes out. And the best technology we have at the time to scan and parse invoices is called OCR, optical character recognition. Brex's position was spare no expense. Use the best technology. It's Google. It's 87% accurate and reliable. Like, it's just not great for financial services. It means we still need human in the loop. There are human beings pulling levers, pushing buttons. But that June, when we get access to the GPT, the whole world's freaking out. Gen AI.
Yeah.
Turns out you put generative AI on top of OCR, it closed that 13% error gap almost instantly. So we knew that, legal documents, huge, because the generative nature of generative AI, right? It's context aware. So it can read the document and start to infer and imply things and fill in those gaps. That was a huge unlock for us.
Yeah. Were you at Twitter post-acquisition for a little bit?
Yeah, I was at, no, it was only at Twitter pre-IPO.
Okay.
And I was only there, I did my year.
Your year. What was it like working there?
It was awesome, but I always talk about it as equal parts frustrating and fascinating.
Yeah,
because the site's still going down. There's still fail well.
Oh, wow.
But it was fun for us. It's 140 characters. It's still no photos, no videos. They just acquired Tweety 2, so they didn't even have their own apps yet. They just got TweetDeck and Tweety 2, so they're starting to get their own app. But this was the mantra of, let's be mobile first. Right, so we're watching them for the first time figure out what happens.
Crazy.
Yeah, because that famous photo of when the plane lands in the Hudson, people forget, that's a tweet pic.
Sully, right?
Yeah, but that's not Twitter. That's TweetPic on Twitter. It's a separate, because Twitter
separate
doesn't
service,
have photos.
Right? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, very, very decentralized back then. Now, you can't even link out to anything.
Oh, yeah.
It's completely different.
Now it's like
a product for everything.
Do not put agree.com in a post.
No.
I know. It hurts us. It hurts us.
Yeah, I'm sure. Are you finding any luck with like the world of venture capital and startups sending safe notes around on Agree?
So this one made it easy on the pitch.
Yeah.
I didn't have to explain the pain.
Yeah.
All VCs are like, yeah, this is a miserable experience.
Sure.
I hate moving money with my bank.
Yep.
I don't like working with DocuSign.
Yep.
DocuSign's not a bad company, but people get a visceral reaction.
Yep.
It's like Microsoft Teams or Jira, and nobody likes DocuSign.
Yeah.
And so, when we told them that the way you invest in startups, it'll be your workflows will be better.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's an immediate aha
Is that a
moment.
different product on the fintech side because it's a more of like an investment wire than just a payment?
It's different in that to monetize the way just to benchmark against Stripe invoicing and billing. They take 0.6% blended, 0.4 to 0.7.
Oh yeah, you don't want to take 0.6% on like a VC
so
investment.
the psychological moment for people is $50,000.
Okay.
If it's a $30,000 SaaS charge and you take 0.6, nobody really even notices.
Sure.
Yeah.
50,000, but on our 7.2 million, I'm not paying point anything of that. But there is a place in fintech where people take a 0.6.
Yeah.
Because what do I do with the 7.2? I don't spend it right away. I put it into a bank. And then it goes a row bank, if I can plug them. But no, it goes. They've just been so great to us. But
awesome.
it goes into a treasury account, and I make greater than 4% interest on it.
Got it.
You know what the Rose, Mercury, Brexis take?
Yeah.
0.6%.
Okay.
Right? So the Agree Act 2, which coming out this October, the Agree count by default will be a treasury.
Yeah.
So we want founders doing their safes on the platform. We want all the money flowing through it, and then it would just make sense just to leave it in Agree. Don't move it to another bank. Because I didn't have a treasury. I had to go to Row and I had the checking, but then I had to create a treasury account on top of that.
Interesting.
That makes a ton of sense.
Cool.
Well, our next guest is here, miking up. Anything else you want to share with the stream?
Just love having you guys in. Hey, today we always say is the last day you'll ever pay for DocuSign. So
there we go. What a pitch.
I feel like you're going to get a cease and desist at some point because I feel like
I can't wait to tweet that cease.
There's something, there's something weird about startups that like they're very hesitant about. Even if they are building a direct competitor or something, they're usually pretty hesitant about saying it out loud for a variety of reasons. Just inviting competition.
He's bold. He's brave.
Bold, brash.
I'll take all 7,000.
When you guys, while you guys are in town, though, if you happen to hit the Blue Bottle on 2nd Street, there's a billboard that's going up right as we speak.
There we go.
All it says is today's the last day you'll ever pay for DocuSign.
Very nice.
Just one block from the HQ.
That's
putting the heat on him.
I'm poking the bear. We're going to see what happens.
Poke the bear.
Thanks for having me.
Good luck out there.
Congrats on the new round.
Thank you.
Good to meet you. That is bold. Well, hopefully he's buying billboards on adquick.com. We are, of course, sponsored by AdQuick.
Of course.
We should tell you about all.
It's interesting. I feel like it's the treasury functionalities feel like it makes sense potentially for if you're like an SMB.
Yeah.
But if you're a startup that raises through like a DocuSign-like product, are you going to leave
money in that corporate treasury? Yeah, you probably want to pay your employees, do all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Anyways, I'm very bullish on the product overall.
Good to meet you.
What's happening?
You too. Hi.
Hi. You can throw on headphones if you want to hear yourself. Whatever you want.
Are we twins?
Yeah.
We're brothers.
No,
technology.
we're not related, actually.
We're not actually related.
Yeah.
Wow, you guys look so much alike.
That's funny.
It'll be easier. You can adjust.
But we are live. Would you mind introducing yourself and what you do for the stream?
Jeremy Hindo, production designer. I designed Severance, Top Gun Maverick, Zero Dark 30, a couple things.
Amazing.
Just a couple things.
Just a couple.
Why don't you go say a few more? Just because the first few are so impressive.
It's and a few thousand commercials.
Yeah.
And Detroit, a few other movies, and I have a new Catherine Bigelow movie coming out.
Oh, cool.
In the fall on Netflix.
Awesome.
So
Nice.
we're just finishing that up now.
Where are you based normally?
Los Angeles.
Nice.
Cool.
So are we.
Talk me through
I never worked there.
You
I moved from Toronto 19 years ago to work in LA,
and then
I've only done one film in California.
Yeah. Wow.
Why, even when you moved, it was already...
It's just there's so much shooting abroad. I mean, it's good for like certain projects like Zero Dark 30, you're always going to need to travel. It's just now that there's just, other than...
But Severance feels like something you could film in LA.
So we shoot that in New York because Ben Stiller lives in New York.
Okay,
which is awesome.
Yeah,
so we're not going too far.
Yeah,
which is nice. And it's nice. It's great to be in New York. And a lot of the cast live there and the crew are amazing.
Do you agree with the criticism that Los Angeles and Hollywood should have done more to prevent?
Oh my God, yeah. It's been bleeding for years.
Yeah, the interesting thing that the tariffs on foreign films news came out Sunday. And I forget the guy's name who was kind of spearheading that.
John
Voight? He was saying like these other countries, it was like the local, state, and county leadership in LA have to take some responsibility for creating an environment where, it's just like economically unfeasible.
Do you think that was just hubris by the elected officials in Los Angeles and Hollywood to say, oh, we don't need to compete with Atlanta because we're Hollywood?
Honestly, I don't know why I mean, I think, honestly, a lot of tech moved into California, into Los Angeles.
Oh, sure.
And I kind of think that might have distracted them.
Oh, interesting.
I'm not sure they were paying attention.
Tax revenues are coming in.
And they saw that, and I don't know, but if like the studio system, but all the prop houses, they've been closing for the last 5 years. All the best ones are gone. They went bankrupt. A lot of them through COVID, and then a lot of them hung on till the last year, but they're all closing because no one's shooting in California. It's the stages. I think I've heard 40% empty.
I mean,
we've been looking for we've been looking for like effectively a soundstage, new studio space, and we found a space that we like.
Everything's empty.
But it was shocking negotiating. We would tour a space, be completely empty, then we'd start the negotiation process, and they would have these, even the spaces, maybe the way that the management or however they're capitalized, but they would start throwing out numbers, and I'm just like, you realize I've been in this space and I know that there's no one there, right? I'm like,
I know.
You're kind of, who's your backup offer? Because
and then of course, like everyone who's ever been involved in the building management ownership, they're all of a sudden flying in to see you for just touring one little stage, and you're like, okay, this is a big deal for you.
No, there's something wrong for sure. And
yeah.
I think it's just, most countries, it's so, like I did a movie in Australia, and it's so incentivized.
Totally.
It's not, because what a lot of these countries are giving is above the line. All the money's the above the line. It's actors, directors.
Yeah.
That's the big money.
Yeah.
And in places like California don't do that. New Jersey's starting to do that now.
Is that just tax incentives or actual?
But it's a tax incentive for crews and shooting and post-production, but not always. A lot of places don't cover the cost. If an actor's $25 million, they don't cover that part.
Okay.
Yeah.
But now New Jersey's covering that part.
Wow.
For Netflix. Like certain people have their own deals.
Yeah.
And that's where the real money is. Yeah.
The state of New Jersey
is giving a tax write-off for that?
Like a certain part of above the line, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
and
wild.
a bigger, because a lot of them are capped at like $500,000.
Sure.
It doesn't save you much when someone's getting $30 million on a movie.
Yeah.
And see, you have 2 or 3 of those people.
Yeah.
That's a big chunk of money that it's a lot. And I mean, crew-wise, for most people I know, everyone's making the same money they made 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
It hasn't changed much. So it's just how...
Even if you've progressed a lot in your career in terms of doing...
I still think what I make, I still probably make the same as Rick Carter would have made 20 years ago. The same number.
Yeah.
And the currency's not even close.
Yeah.
But it's a good number. I'm not complaining, but it's not what people... It's the same number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wild.
It's interesting. And they still go, but it hasn't caught up in a lot of ways. And I'm not asking. I have a nice life.
Yeah.
It's more I just like to be home sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, take me through the production design workflow on a project that we might be familiar with. Start with, like, is there location scouting involved? Photographs? Are you sketching things? Are you in a particular software? Like, what is your process?
I mean, basically, Severance is, when Ben sent it to me, it was 2 scripts. There was only 2 scripts for the first 10 episodes.
Sure.
And tonally, it was really nothing there. It was very funny, and it was a great concept. Like this, people will want to be severed. It kind of scares me, but I could go. Well, I know half of my friends want this.
Yeah.
If they could get it, but it didn't have a look to it.
Sure.
So it read like The Office. It was budgeted exactly like The Office. Shoot in a location, great cast. Adam was already attached to it. It could have been Parks and Rec. It was the same sort of tone, like that feel. And I was like, man, it's not my thing. I want to do cinema. I want to do something really visual. And he said, well, what do you want to do? And I'm like, give me a couple days and I'll put a lookbook together. I didn't know him. I just put a lookbook of what I thought it would look like. I'm like, if you want to do this, I love this. I had an idea that I really fell in love with, and he loved it. And it was sort of conceptually like the outside was always going to be, I was like, it should always be winter. It should always be really sad outside. We have to kind of accentuate it. It was, and then when we go underground, it has to be, very particularly designed, and also all the technology should be, all the tropes that I, as a kid, grew up with. That if you came out in the outside world now and told somebody you worked at this CRTC screen with a trackball, it wouldn't make any sense. It had to be things that made no sense to anyone outside the world, especially young people. They'd never even seen. My son didn't even know what it was. Yeah. He's 20. He's like, he still doesn't know what a trackball is really.
Yeah.
So it's trying to that's the initial part, is really conceptually, what does the world look like?
Yeah.
And then I really always start everything with a researcher, and her and I, we just bang stuff out for a while, and then I start with research with a concept artist.
How much of moving from a look that's similar to The Office, which is very docu style to something that's cinema, where you wound up, is driven by actual budgetary choices versus just picking the right tools out of the same tool.
We didn't have any on Severance. We just abandoned that thought.
Okay.
Like the cinematographer, Jess and Ben and I, we were like, what do we want to make?
Yeah.
And we just made it.
Okay.
The budget exploded. It really did.
Really?
But
and what drives that? Because people think about like, oh, we're filming with Cook lenses or RA Alexa, and it gets expensive.
Yeah.
But on the production side, you know, not to degrade it, but it does feel like it's a desk. How expensive can it be?
Well, it's 5 stages of set.
Sure.
It's
So it's just a lot
It's
of
a
that.
lot. It's volume.
Sure.
Like a lot of shows, like say Parks and Rec, it's one set.
Yeah.
For the entire show.
Yep.
The entire every.
Speaking of a lot of sets,
That makes sense.
The rehearsal.
Yeah.
That's a lot of sets.
a lot. It's a yeah.
I mean, it's
Very
every
expensive.
new scene is like an
like
entirely
the amount of sets and then
Yeah.
the amount of actors that come in and the
Sure.
amount of time it takes to shoot all those sets and
Yeah.
pre-light and camera tests, it all just
And the lighting probably gets
exponentially-
more expensive as
Oh,
you're
yeah.
going for a more cinematic look,
yeah,
right? As opposed
and then,
to just
because we have
using
sets
natural
that the birthing cabin in season 2, we built it. It's only in one scene,
wow, yeah.
but it's a
And that's
particular
expensive,
scene. It's destroyed. It doesn't exist anymore.
Wow.
So you have to offset like how. But a lot of shows are, like Law and Order is designed to, the sets are standing sets. It's a courthouse. It has,
Yeah.
and then the only other ones are locations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ours are whatever we want.
Yeah.
And also all the locations, like they have to be places that we've never seen before. Like we shoot in Utica, we shot in Newfoundland. We're all over the place because I can't have somebody know that train station.
Yeah.
I can't know it. And then we
So
alter
you're
so
fine
much
to
of it
take
later.
take a location that's unique and maybe hasn't been, popularized before and build on top of it. right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then we do a lot of visual effects after. We augment and alter it because it's really about creating a world that everyone doesn't know. They don't know where it is.
Yeah.
Like I always say, we're in Poland for all I know. Like
Yeah.
nobody knows.
Yeah.
And I don't want people to know we're in upstate New York. There's nothing identifiable really that people could pick.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's the intention is really just for people to go down that rabbit hole. It's not to really trick them. It's just it makes it believable that
Immersive.
they
Yeah.
can't go. Well, I hike there all the time.
Yeah.
It's just.
Can you talk about previs? Or is generative AI playing a role? Is everything? Do you interface with storyboard artists? What does that look like as you're trying to go from just this idea on the page, which you said was very blank, to something that you need to get to the point where you're like, this is exactly what we're building?
Basically, what I do is I concept everything, and
Sure.
we do iterations, like sometimes probably 50 times till
Wow.
we get to the way we like the set looks the way we all think it should shoot.
Sure.
Like Jess, the DP, and now she's one of the directors on Severance,
Yeah.
and Ben. It's really the three of us that just run with it when we're in shoot mode.
Yeah.
And it's really they both storyboard like crazy together. Like we're really tight and very opinionated. We ride each other like crazy. We argue all the time.
Yeah.
But in a really passionate, collaborative way. We're like there's zero egos. None of us have an ego about it. It's just passionately what is the best thing. Like if it's not perfect, we don't shoot it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel like the materials that you're working with to build a particular piece of furniture, for example, actually matter beyond just how they read on camera? Is there something about a heavy desk that actually brings out a better
yeah.
performance?
Oh yeah.
Even though you could just make everything out of balsa wood or something?
Well, it's like the main desk. Like
Yeah.
it just the script said 4 desks, large room.
Yep.
And I was like, wait, it has to be. This is like I kind of treat it like a spaceship.
Yeah.
It's like the control room of Star Trek, or
Yeah.
it's like you need one thing to set the tone. If everyone buys off on that set, they'll believe anything after.
Yeah.
So I'm like, the desk has to be. Let's build this desk that's very interactive. They're like 5-year-olds. We treat them like once they're birthed into the Audi on the boardroom table, which Dan calls the womb
Yeah.
of the office. That's the birthplace.
Yeah.
You go to this work and you're really 5 years old. You don't know anything.
Yeah.
You just start to work at this computer. I'm like, let's make it really playful. Like, let's treat it like kind of like a playground.
Yeah.
But I want them to be able to jump on it. Like I want Zach to be able to jump on it. It has to be structurally insanely strong.
Yeah.
And we just think of everything so that way they're not impeded by anything. Whatever they want to do, safety first, go do it. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you made you created the activation. Where was it in New York? It was in the middle of.
That's so marketing for Apple is amazing. That's
Yeah.
all market. That's all
Okay,
them.
interesting.
Yeah,
They
they
are
handle that.
amazing. And the one in
But
Grand Central was,
based on.
yeah, it's all based on what
Yeah.
we do, and then they're really interesting how they take it to
Yeah.
the next level. That one worked out really well. Well, it worked not in a good way, but the fires. So the premiere was canceled because of the fires in LA.
Yeah.
So that was happening at the same time, and all the actors were going to be. We were all going to be at the premiere. They all just jumped on a plane and went to the event. So it would have just been like people cast to be there, but they all showed up.
That's amazing.
Unknown to everyone.
I had no idea about that.
I wasn't there. I didn't know they were going.
I
And the cast.
feel like the just the imagery. There's so many different images from Severance that have become iconic and in some ways just got outsized attention on the internet just because they were. Have you
been to the Apple website?
Is it still?
If you you click on it, it's the first computer they sell. I don't know if they still have it.
Yeah.
Or IKEA started making the desk. Like in Austria, they issued it first.
Yeah.
It's on the cover of IKEA. It's
so is it the work that you're most proud of in your career, or is there something else that maybe didn't get the same level of attention that you?
I mean, I love the process is the best part.
Yeah.
I mean, Top Gun was hilariously fun. Zero Dark 30 was amazing challenge.
Yeah.
Like, they're all. It's about for me. It's the experience of it's a year or two of my life.
Yeah.
The people I'm with, like I'm so particular who I work with. It's like you better. They better be interesting because why are you going to spend your time with them? Yeah. That's really for me what it is. What it goes out into the world, what people make it is. I mean, this is exciting to watch. Yeah. Not unlike Top Gun was.
Well,
exciting to watch.
you must appreciate. Product design is really hard, right?
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. But somebody can have an idea for a product, and within maybe call it 10 minutes to an hour, they can have something that looks somewhat like the end state with. You must not have a lot of sympathy for that, given that when you're like, oh, we need to design this entire scene, and we're going to need to import wood from this region, and that it's just a very different.
Well, it's also AI is a funny one because we don't use any AI.
Nothing.
But no, because I mean, my biggest problem is I don't need ideas. I just need money to make stuff. I have my ideas just fall out of me. And the older I get,
so you want
the more I have.
You want humanoid robots that can
carpenters.
Assemble.
I really just want support.
Yeah.
Really, we just want artists that we're making art.
Yeah.
Which is amazing, and it's not actually a robot wouldn't work for me. I need the person who has an opinion. Like I have this amazing sculptor who does all the sculptures. He's full time. I've never had a full time sculptor.
Wow.
I could go Panko. Let's make this. Let's make a bus. Let's make this piece of art.
Yeah.
He makes it in a day.
Wow. Yeah.
And it's all in his head.
It's creative. It has that human.
And
touch.
it has and it has his heart, and it has. I love that. And it's not necessarily what I wanted. I want what they want too.
Sure. Put that inspiration.
Where there's so much doom and gloom in
the world,
the movie industry. No, not the world. I actually
not
think,
here.
I think the world is the world is
config. It's great.
Config. No, but specifically in entertainment, filmmaking.
It is pretty gloomy these days.
It is gloomy.
Yeah.
But clearly, there's amazing work being made. There's all these new tools that people are going to have access to, or already have access to, that make variety, different parts of the process easier. Where are the bright spots to you? What gets
Honestly,
you excited?
I miss the John Hughes movies. I miss scripts. I'm so tired of seeing guns. I really am. If I see any of the poster with a gun on it, I find it really sad.
Yeah.
And I miss John Hughes. Like my kids know them all, and most people know them, but there's nothing to really take. Like adolescence is an interesting thing for young kids to watch because it's about real life. But it would be nice to also give them something that's to look forward to. That's like how to fall in love for the first time. Like the things that I find young generations are not getting. They're literally getting. I love John Wick. It's fun, but they can't all be John Wick.
Yeah.
You know?
We do have a lot of John Wick.
No, we
so
were talking earlier the need for positive science fiction, right?
Yeah.
Like you can still have a dramatic
Futuristic,
storyline,
but not dystopian. Not cyberpunk necessarily.
Right.
Maybe solar punk. Or,
Like ours, I think ours is funny because it's really still a love story.
Yeah.
He loves her outside, and he fell in love inside. It's just about love.
Yeah.
And that's really all we all want. And it's the hardest thing to figure out how to have.
Yeah.
And how to let you be vulnerable. It's not something that's being allowed these days.
Can you talk about production design in the context of a film where there's going to be a lot of shots on location? Like, I mean, I imagine that the nature of an aircraft carrier plays into the design, production design, even when you're on a soundstage. And there's less things that you have full control over. But how did you think about that in the context of Top Gun or Zero Dark 30 similar, where there's a certain grounding in the real world that you need to pull into the rest with the lighting design, but also the production design?
I mean, honestly, I think we can do anything.
Really?
I mean, we built the Osama bin Laden compound. It's the size of this whole area. It's
Wow.
it's massive.
That's amazing.
I'm like, why wouldn't we build it?
Yeah.
It was 300 people laying bricks for 6 weeks, just It
Wow.
was a factory line. It was amazing. All these Egyptian
That's remarkable.
bricklayers. It was incredible. Like we built the jet on Top Gun. Like if I just don't think you can't do it.
Yeah.
I have zero understanding of no or
Yeah.
why not. Like I always go why not, and they go why, and I'm like, I said why not.
We're doing it. Showbiz.
What
Let's
about
do it.
what about CGI, like set extensions as a tool?
Amazing.
Are you reaching for that more? And then how does that change your process?
We use it a lot in Severance. We use it a lot. I use it on everything. It is, and I do a lot of cleanup now.
Sure.
Because you're shooting so much faster, you're prepping so much faster. It's a great tool that doesn't allow you to waste your time stressing over it. That I can't do this in 3 weeks, but I can do this, and then I'll do the rest after. And it's more economical and it's way less stressful. But the hardest part is the production and the studio producers. It's hard because that bag of money hasn't been put aside until people are just starting to I'm like, put it away.
Yeah.
Let's commit to this amount of money and leave that money. But
how much of your process is a dance with the whoever's funding the
90%.
project, where you're just trying to understand, you're like dancing with a bowl, right? Where you're like trying to figure out if I push the budget 15%, maybe they'll be fine, but if I take it 22%,
you kind of can read a room like anybody, and I love just I'm just like, let's just talk to them. How about I just pitch, let them see it.
Yeah.
And then if they say no, they say no. You get a no's a lot, and you have to adapt, but you have to keep pushing. It's just a battle. Filmmaking really is a war, and it's a war till the end. And it's just how it works. Because, and I respect their job. We can't all go rogue. You have to be responsible, but you have to. They do hire me to trust my instincts, and if you don't do that, you don't make good art.
Yeah.
You can't.
How confident are you? Film is, television, it's a hits business. How confident are you, during your process around what the, commercial or just reception of a project will be?
I honestly have. For a long time, I did commercials because I couldn't pick a movie because I was terrified. Is this going to be good?
Sure.
And then I had a friend of mine who's done a million movies.
Because you have to just kind of.
He said, just let go. You
Yeah.
have to let go. Just pick the people you love to work with and forget about it.
Yeah.
Because, he did, Silence with Marty. And, that movie didn't do well. It's a great movie, though. But you don't know why. And you can't bleed over it for the rest of your life. You've got to do another one and another one. And you just can't predict what people are going to like. And honestly, you have to not care. I couldn't care less.
Yeah.
You'd love to care. Wouldn't we all love to care to make everyone happy? But I don't know why people like anything. And I think once you just give up on that and just look, they want what you want. If you are a visualist, they mostly want what you want.
Yeah.
I have a conspiracy theory I want to run by you. Someone was posting, this is just a random person on the internet, but they said that Apple is preparing people for a world where we're using virtual avatars in the Apple Vision Pro by using a more high-key lighting style in shows like Severance and Ted Lasso.
Really?
Do you think there's anything to that?
No. I don't think none of us have ever even heard of it.
Yeah.
I mean,
does
our
seem like it'd be
goal
odd
is-
that it would bleed over, but I thought it
Our
was
goal
funny.
is really Justin Bell and I really wanted to make a movie,
Yeah.
a 10-hour movie,
Yeah.
and another 10-hour movie.
Yeah, that's great.
Because everyone has a huge, I have a 140-inch screen at home.
Yeah,
A lot
yeah,
of people
of
have a
course.
projector now. And
Yeah,
you
totally.
can buy one for $500, project
Yeah.
it on your wall. It's still amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think most people have a lot of people have the potential to see it bigger than watching it on their phone, which a lot of producers say, yeah, but everyone's watching it on their phone. I'm like, I don't agree.
Yeah.
And I think some of these shows could be shown in theaters.
Yeah.
I think it could go back the other way. We just screened Severance, episode 10 at the Dolby Theater a couple weeks ago for 3,000 people, and it was like the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
3,000 people in one.
How would you?
At the
how would
Dolby
you-
Theater.
Wow, that's
Amazing.
incredible.
How would you fix the theater industrial complex? Because the sort of 100% tariffs on foreign films plan involved government basically subsidies to help theaters fix their bathrooms, or at least that was what was put out there. And I was like, I'm going to go out on a limb, and I don't think the reason our theaters are suffering is because they haven't had a new toilet in 20 years.
I think everybody just wants, companies want this guarantee they're going to make money. They got to take a risk.
Yeah.
So you fail. I'm sorry. I fail all the time.
Yeah.
It's what we do. Failures works and sometimes it doesn't. It's like, So you have, like, their odds are still going to be good. People,
Yeah.
Like, well, look at what people will watch. And if there are, like, I couldn't believe how many people came dressed up as characters. Like, they could screen on a weekend all 10 episodes, and I guarantee you, the Dome, if the ArcLight was still open, would be packed.
Yeah.
It would be sold out. You could sell it out for weeks.
Yeah.
Like, I do believe that because I see what these kids want to see. And I have a 25-year-old daughter. She had every Friday night, she had Severance dinner night at their friends.
Amazing.
Everybody was doing it. It's like, that's what Rocky Horror Picture Show was like when I was a kid. We had those experiences.
Yes.
People want them, and they want to walk out and talk about them.
Yep.
They don't want to watch at home and then look to the left and to the right and then go back on Instagram.
There can only be so much laundry TV, right?
Like, it's fun to communally watch something and then talk about it and hang out on the street. Like, and
on that note, do you have a take on?
You guys have to get it back. That's the thing, is you have to demand it.
Sure.
Well, John organizes movie nights.
Yeah, I actually organize
Amazing.
movie nights with all my friends, and I just text
He just gets 20
everyone in
tickets.
Los Angeles. I get 20 tickets. I text everyone in my phone who's in town, say, hey, do you want to come? And then if people don't show, I just refund the tickets. It's great.
Amazing.
And just put together a huge movie
love
night.
that.
And it's just an activity to go out. Better than going to the bar with your guy friends. I'm not really that into sports. I've always been more into movies.
But I think that's the thing, is I don't think that look, baby boomers have obviously lived too long. They're still controlling how we live. Then there's, my age.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of, there needs to be a lot more control for you at your age that's really controlling a lot of this and demanding that this is what you guys want. They still think they know.
Yeah.
The 65, 70-year-old guys, they still think they have the answers. Like, nobody wants to go out. No, you don't want to go out. You're 70.
Yeah.
You want to sit at home. You loved COVID.
Yep.
It's like 25-year-olds don't want to sit at home. They want to. You go to Paris, the movie houses are packed.
Yeah.
Every little theater's jammed all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You will go if they're
I've
available.
actually been surprised. I mean, we're a technology and business focused show, but I've been surprised to not see more attempts at, I'm surprised there isn't like a sweet green of theaters, right? It's like something that's like well designed and has healthy snacks and food.
I'm
and it's
so
like
tired of the food. Isn't it awful?
Yeah. I mean, that's a big part of it. It's like I haven't
awful.
eaten movie theater.
Yeah,
food.
ArcLight was that a little bit in LA and
But they
Alamo
still-
Draft
But a lot of
House
them,
and
they end up focusing too much on avant-garde film and
That's
all
true.
that. You just want to, if they were just playing.
Yeah, I do feel like mixing in the hits and creating these like big re-release moments can be good for kind of getting people back in. The
Like, look at
flow.
Top Gun. People saw it 5-6 times.
Oh yeah, totally.
It was amazing. It was exactly how I grew up.
You had to see it
And,
in the theater.
and I loved it. And it's like,
There's also
why can't there be more of
well,
this?
so here's another funny. The concept of scarcity could be interesting to implement. It's like you figure out a way to say we're going to pull this film off the internet everywhere for a year, off all the streaming
that was
platforms.
the way it was.
And then
It
we're
used
going
to
to
be,
but then
you
we'll
see it, and then 9 months you have to wait. Now it's
but
on
then-
demand the
but
next
now
week.
you could do it. Take a movie, pull it off everywhere for a year.
Yeah.
Bring
Honestly,
it back.
if you guys want to, I hope someone starts an app, and I'll give the idea away for free. Do one that doesn't track you or focus to you.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be. It's like going to Blockbuster, walk around and find it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, interesting.
You just get
The
sent
non-algo.
the same stuff. It's awful.
Yeah.
There's so many good. Like, join the Criterion Collection, which not enough people do.
Yeah.
There's a billion amazing films on there.
Yeah.
And start watching them. They're available. You just have to get off some of the.
Yeah, we got to get him the Criterion Collection. He hasn't seen any movies. I've seen
Never-
everything.
It's so cheap too. Is it $10 a month?
I know. Yeah.
I love it. It's
Yeah,
like the
it's
same
great.
price of a coffee with a tip.
Yeah. We got to get him through that. So we're actually going into a production design session, building a new studio. What are the common pitfalls where we could get stuck in quagmire? We've been looking at big news desks. We're thinking about putting some TVs behind us for graphics and displays. It'll be a pretty basic set, but we do want it to be more opinionated than just one newsroom, please. We want something that speaks to a more modern brand, but we have a little bit of this, like, we wear suits even though we're tech people, and there's a little bit of that. But where would we get stuck? Where are the people? Who are the people that we need to be talking to really nail this project?
Yeah, because I don't think it's whoever did CNN's set.
I mean, those sets are so old.
Yeah,
I mean,
know.
honestly, this is a fun set.
Yeah.
Do this.
Good.
Do this at large.
Yeah, that's cool.
I mean, I think the cool thing is to make it really what it's real. Those sets they're just designed for this. All they care about is their logo.
Yep.
So boring.
Totally.
Yeah.
Like, make something like I remember Letterman. Letterman was hilarious when he'd throw that card through the window that didn't exist, and you heard the sound effect. Like, just make it fun.
Yeah. I
Like
that.
an interactive, cheap.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be expensive. No one cares.
Yeah.
Just make it fun.
That's
Fun
great.
is Fun is key.
Yeah.
Like I
Back
think,
at our home studio, we have a range of exotic sound effects that
Yeah,
really bring the show
we're
to
building the
life.
soundboard, but we also have props. We have a tinfoil hat for when we're talking about conspiracies. We have a crystal
amazing.
ball
I love
that
this.
we
So
pull
just-
out. We
you
have
guys are
bottles
already-
of champagne and books, and
You're already
we've
doing
kind of
it.
built this whole like library.
Come back
vibe.
and
yeah.
come
Yeah,
back
I love
and
it.
hang with us.
I
in the new
totally will. I
studio.
live in
Yeah.
Studio City.
Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic!
Perfect.
Yeah.
Great.
Just go to CBS Radford. It's the best.
CBS Radford was that?
It's where they shot. It's Laurel. It's Laurel and Ventura.
Oh, okay, yeah, maybe we
Um,
should check that out.
They,
Well,
it's,
this other
it's where they shot
CBS
Parks at Rec. It's where they shot
Yeah.
Gilligan's
Radford,
Island.
yeah.
I mean,
Okay, yeah.
everybody.
The other
everything's shot there.
CBS is a place
we were looking at Television City.
Oh, I don't know that.
It's another CBS lot.
Yeah.
Bill Maher films there.
Oh, yeah.
But we were touring it and it was pretty empty. But it was very cool. I mean, it was the real deal.
Docs Bill Maher.
I think that's public.
No one wants to go there
Dogs.
anymore.
So, no, I mean, there's like 7 layers of security to get in that building. I think it's fine.
all
And
good.
it's a live studio audience. People go in all the time.
right.
Anyway, are there any are there any new trends that you're tracking in production design or kind of advice for up and coming folks who want to get into the industry? Is it like what is the path? Because I imagine you don't just call up a studio and ask for your first job. You need to build a resume of some kind, but it's kind of hard in the TikTok age to do anything related to that. Right?
You know what's funny? I tell all my kids, like all their friends,
Yeah.
you have to do what we did. You have to knock on doors.
Knock on doors.
Like my son's graduating from LMU right now.
Yeah.
He's interviewing for these jobs that have 5 positions, 8,000 applicants.
Wow. Yeah.
That's
What's he want to do?
He's in marketing and
Yeah,
wants marketing for something like event planning,
Sure.
or film promotion, or he was interviewing for
Connect us.
agencies.
Connect us.
Yeah,
We're hiring.
Yeah, we're hiring.
No, it's amazing, but that's what they're up. And the other thing is, they're all having to do these stupid Zoom interviews. You can't.
Oh yeah, that's really
You can't not. I tell Sam, don't take one. You need to know if you like them too, and you'll know their chemistry. I find a Zoom interview is a waste. It's like, I don't know. I can't get a vibe from them. But the second I sit with you guys, I'm like, I get their vibe.
Yeah.
And you want to hang out.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know who you don't want to hang out with.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that's what's being lost. That's the art of. I think that whole thing is just chaotic bullshit.
Is there?
And really lazy since COVID. A lot of young
No, I
people-
go super quick. It's
very lazy.
typically one call, 10 minutes.
Come hang
Let's
out.
meet up in person.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's meet up.
and meet up at a coffee shop. And
Yeah, of
really,
course.
you can just tell like there's a million things. There's style. There's
Totally.
They look at you. Do they shake? I don't know. I feel like the
Yeah.
etiquette of a human you need to meet.
Yeah. Are there any particularly underrated films from a production design perspective that you go back and you think?
Yeah, Playtime.
Playtime.
It's the one I reference all the time. Jacques
Okay.
Tati's Playtime.
Amazing.
It's a Francis Coppola still talks about it. It's
Yeah.
it's what Metropolis is going to be another one
Oh yeah.
because they're bombs. Like Playtime is a masterpiece.
What?
And it's my biggest reference for Severance was
Oh,
there's
yeah,
art
I've
of
seen
like there's
this,
cardboard
yeah.
cutouts. There's people in the
Yeah,
back.
yeah,
Wait till you see the airplane.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
gonna-
yeah.
it's just wait till you see it.
Okay, awesome.
And it was all his own money.
Yeah.
He went bankrupt,
Legend.
and nobody watched it. And it's like now there's books. It's one of the greatest films ever made, and sometimes that takes 50 years.
Yeah.
Sadly, he's not. He doesn't see it.
Doesn't see
But-
it.
Wait, so when
made
does
it, right.
when does Metropolis actually release?
It's out.
It's
Yeah,
out,
it's out,
and
yeah.
it bombed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
but-
but it was long. I think people.
I couldn't
Will
watch
it be
it.
will it be
But it's one of those-
will it be appreciated in the fullness of time or just
I think sometimes it takes 20 years for people to want to watch. Maybe it's too close to us. It's about us.
Yeah.
And we don't really like watching about ourselves, right? We don't like what we're doing to the world. So I think in
Well,
20 years, your kids will be like,
people
you
people
guys
like
didn't watch this?
people but in a weird way people
seen
people
Severance?
like White Lotus because it's like watching their own family vacation. play out.
Isn't that amazing?
But that's
Yeah.
different dynamic.
Yeah, White Lotus feels like being at a luxury resort and just eavesdropping on everyone, and their lives are
more
falling
than
apart, but you're
eavesdropping.
doing great.
More than eavesdropping.
the best.
I know you're sitting there the whole time going, God, I'm so lucky.
Yeah.
My life
Yeah,
is
yeah,
so
yeah,
good.
yeah, exactly.
I'm here. I'm eating
My
the same food,
problems.
but look
Yeah.
at these freaks.
Yeah, look at these freaks. That's great. Yeah. Anything else you're tracking or watching these days? Have you seen The Studio?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
I don't.
Do you think it rung true? Because for me, as an outsider, it felt like it was this great introduction. It felt honestly like the world of Silicon Valley and venture capital. With like episode 2, he is giving notes that he shouldn't.
Yeah.
And then episode 3 is he has to give a note but can't bring himself to.
it.
And it showed that it's not just there's not just a blanket rule. Studio exec never gives notes. No, sometimes they do have to, and that kind of back and forth was really.
I mean,
cool.
I think it has to be true because they're all
Yeah.
Seth's experiences. He's regurgitated.
Yeah, of course.
And I have friends who have, pitched me. Like I don't have that sort of relationship with studios.
Yeah.
So, but a lot of my director friends who've pitched, and they laugh. They know, they're like, oh my God, that's that guy. That's her.
Yeah.
It's based on real people.
Yeah.
I think it's hilarious. I don't know if other people get it. I don't know
Yeah.
because it feels very filmy.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes he's doing Woody Allen. That cracks me up.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the one episode 4, I felt like Manhattan Murder Mystery.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
little-
totally.
You know, I
great.
get what he's doing. He's just trying to be fun.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's like the most expensive item you've ever had to procure during a production build? Has there ever been any moment where it's been like, this is really high stakes?
Yeah,
we got to get the shot.
The jet for Top Gun.
The jet for Top Gun.
It took me a lot of time.
How did that work?
But you built it, right?
Yeah, and everyone kept saying, no, it's going to be.
But you build it out of.
I'm
So
like,
now
no, we
you
don't
now
have
you
it.
get
or
now
do
you
you
get why
get-
the F-35 is $1
Cost
trillion.
so much.
No, I think it was about $3 million all
Wow.
in to build, but it's only, it's not, it obviously doesn't fly, but to
No.
build a prop, that's a lot of money for a
Yeah,
prop.
and does it go on some sort of like robotic arm or?
Yeah, but we also built it to be
control device?
real at China Lake, and
Yeah.
I wanted Tom to be able to touch it,
Yeah.
see it, interact with it.
Yeah.
He gets in it, we tow it out,
Yeah.
all the way till it takes off is all real.
Wow.
And I'm like, I'm just a believer everything should be real. And there's some feedback where it's like, well, we can do you're just going to
CGI.
change it in post later. I'm like, Joe, we're not going to change it. We love it.
Yeah.
If we make it,
Yeah.
that's it.
That's it.
And you have to find certain directors that can commit to that too.
Yeah.
A lot of directors want to change it. So producers are like, we're not going to pay for this. He's going to change it
Yeah.
anyways. We didn't change anything.
And there's a
Wow.
unique dynamic with Tom Cruise specifically, correct? Because I've heard like he even has his own insurance, so he can do stunts. But can you unpack like what it's like to work with him?
So when we did the cockpit, like you basically, when you do something like that, especially with Tom, or you have to build plywood versions. So you build it to make sure, because Tom's an amazing pilot. So we built it this wooden cockpit and with the wooden windows and a template, and he's like, it's not comfortable, guys. We got to make it comfortable. Like, yeah, we know it's a plywood, but he's really adamant. He's going to be in there a lot. It's going to be really comfortable.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Ron, who was the aircraft designer I was working with, he's done about 5 movies with Tom. He got it all. But Tom is very specific where he likes buttons. Like he moves
Ooh,
things
that's cool.
to where they want where he is. If he was a pilot, that's where he is a pilot.
Yeah, he is a
Oh
pilot,
no,
yeah.
I would put it there.
That's
So when he's in that mode, he's perfect because it's so custom to him. And the inside cockpit, we did it with Skunkworks. We had a whole deal with Skunkworks.
Really?
I was out there. Joe and I were there all the time. We co-designed the cockpit with them. There are components. There's buttons in there that are $2-3 million that are from prototypes.
Wow.
That only 10
Wow.
people know what they are.
Wow.
And they're nods to those
Big
people.
top
They're
secret.
not for us. But
Yeah.
they would
Yeah,
bring
yeah.
them into us in these little boxes, and we'd put them in, and then
Yeah.
and it's just that part's amazing.
It's such a little touch, but it just goes a little bit further. And it's
Yeah.
like that finishing, that last 1%. It
Yeah.
takes 90% of the time. And
What is
effort,
and
but-
for me, it's in Severance, a lot of the actors say it to me. It's like they look around the room and like, there's so much we won't see, and I'm like,
Yeah.
but you're seeing it,
Yeah.
and they're
That's who it's
using it,
for,
and
yeah.
it's not just for the audience to see
Yeah.
it all.
Yeah.
They feel if they walk into this bonker set and it's all feels real and there's things to do, they just get lost like you naturally would.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just the way you have to design. A lot of people say we won't see that. It's like I don't even know what that. I just don't. I ignore
You're
it. 'Cause-
creating a
'cause-
world.
And as hard as a lot of designers, they will cut it out. They'll be like, oh yeah, they won't see it. It's like you don't know that. And every director, like Catherine Bigelow, everything's a 360.
Yeah.
You don't give her a half set.
Yeah.
It's like because if you do, she will shoot that other half, and it'll be in the movie.
And
So,
it'll be-
like
it'll
you have
be
to
wrong. You
and
gotta do the whole thing.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
but you just have to be.
She wants to be immersed.
Our job is to create a world that actors feel real in,
Totally.
and then when you watch it, you believe it.
Yeah. Should there be an Academy Award for production design?
There is.
There is?
Yeah.
But it doesn't happen during the main event? It
Yeah,
does?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. My friend Patrice won for Dune last year. I don't know
fantastic.
who won this.
Okay.
I can't remember. Yeah, it's a big award.
I thought there was, there's one category that
I have to
feel like people
imagine
get
you're going to
snubbed.
be
This will be an Emmy for
Emmy.
Severance.
Yeah,
There you
yeah,
go.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good
I
luck.
hate to cut this interview short.
This is really
because
fun
this is
No, I
love it. It's
Super
amazing. I love it.
enjoyable.
Yeah, it's fun.
Um,
I'll happily do it again for you guys.
Yeah, this would be
Be
great.
in touch.
You'll be
Yeah,
in my
we'll see you
home.
now.
I'll drive my Vespa down to visit you guys.
Oh,
There we go.
fantastic.
Yeah,
You
love
can
it.
drive
You
it
can't
on
go too
drive it
far.
onto the set. Do a
Don't go-
burnout
don't-
on the set.
Don't go west side. It's too damp.
No.
No.
We're going to
Hollywood.
Hollywood.
Nice.
We're
That's-
bringing
we're
media
bringing-
to Hollywood.
Come to Hollywood.
Yeah.
All right.
Bringing
Thanks, guys.
media back to Hollywood.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway,
Awesome.
thank you
Nice
so
to meet
much.
you.
Cheers.
Bye, guys.
Great hanging.
Yeah, that was great. I got to watch Playtime. 1967 comedy drama. Never seen it.
Later.
Bye. Yeah, what a delightful conversation. Not someone that we normally have on the stream, but we need to do more Hollywood. We should do a whole Hollywood day. Welcome.
Hey.
How you doing?
Welcome to the show. It's great to have you.
Great to be here.
Really, really chill day, I'm sure.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
it's
super
quiet.
relaxing.
Super relaxed.
Just
plenty of time to just come hang out on a podcast.
It's
here
quiet.
and let's
Great.
adjust that microphone so it's towards your face. You can just adjust the mic. I think will be enough.
There we go. That's
Perfect.
good. Would you mind introducing yourself for the stream? Tell us who you are,
Sure.
what you do.
Sure. Hi, I'm Nairi Hordadjian. I'm the Chief Communications Officer at Figma, which basically means I'm lucky to work with this amazing design community on events and how we engage them all around the world, including Config.
How have the comms been different this year than in years past?
I think that the launches really set the tone for how we bring the community together at Config every year. And, we were just so excited about the launch slate this year. 4 new
Insane.
products,
Yep.
taking us
Insane.
from 4 to 8.
Yep.
We had Andrew Reed on from
Oh, good.
Sequoia earlier, and he said that a few years ago they were giving Dylan a standing ovation and
Font
the team
picker.
for a font picker.
now
And to
it's
see this
4
year,
new
it's
products entirely.
make, cite,
Yeah.
buzz.
Oh, my God. I
It's-
remember in 2022, it was like dark mode was
Dark
like
mode.
similar. Like, it
Yeah,
was like,
yeah.
oh, my God.
Everyone's so excited, but now it's like whole
and it's just been
functionality.
really amazing to see the response so far already, and we're excited to see the community play with the
Yeah.
products, get
Yeah.
feedback, and keep iterating.
Do you think about who you're communicating with as specific customer avatars or cohorts, or is it all just kind of one big happy Figma family? And yeah, if you put on the headphones, you'll just be able to hear yourself a little bit better.
Better.
A little more authentic podcast mode.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, in
better.
terms of in terms of the types of communities that are here, obviously there's consumers who might use Figma just to design, a wedding invitation or a birthday card, and then there's all the way up to an enterprise that has, probably hundreds of seats, if not more.
Yeah.
Do you think about communicating to different groups in different ways, or is it kind of just a big celebration of the broader Figma community?
Yeah, I mean, Figma can be really good for figuring out your wedding seating, so
Oh,
I
yeah?
don't want to discount that
Okay.
use case. But in general, we're really serving people who are making software.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So going from idea to product and all the tools that they need to be able to do that. And, obviously the product design community is a huge part of that. But over the past several years, the way people are building has changed.
Yeah.
The entire process has become more blended, interdisciplinary. Today, you heard from an engineer, a product manager, designers, and they're all just working together to go from idea to product, and AI is changing that. And so we really think of serving that entire development
No, it's crazy. The
cycle.
entire org chart can now make things,
Totally.
which is insane. Like the idea that someone in legal could create a marketing asset or some type of material for hire, it's pretty unheard of.
Yeah, even just like a one-off internal tool
Yeah.
to be built.
Can you talk about kind of the pressure, around Figma? A lot of companies say they have a community, but they really just have, an audience or a customer base. But, something that feels very obvious here and even online is that Figma's community is a real community, right? You have people coming in from Australia, Africa, Asia, Europe, like all descending here, and you don't get that without, people. And these aren't, some people are coming on behalf of a company. Other people are like a one-person studio that's just like, I'm spending my own money to get here because I need to be there. Can you talk about how you've approached, comms specifically at Figma, knowing that when you send an email, people are going to open it and they're going to care a lot about what they're hearing. And I just feel like that's very different than even some big important companies where they're just sort of this monolithic organization and, people are going to buy their stuff, regardless of how they feel about, the company.
Totally. Well, a lot of that goes back to the very earliest days. And, I think because Figma was in the browser and suddenly made design collaborative, it completely changed how designers worked. Completely. Like radical change in their day-to-day. And so that we always try to bring it back to the product solution that we're offering. But, we think of Config as being an event for the community, by the community. It always has been that way since the first one back in 2020, right before the pandemic. That predates my time at Figma. But the talks are by the members of our community, the like activations, even some of the other events that are being sponsored and put on by people who are just here gathering. And so for us, the way we think about it is just to maintain authentic relationships with people. We ask for a lot of feedback, sure, on the event, but also on product. And so we're just trying to have a really open and engaged dialogue with folks. You know, we're happy that they tell us when they like things. We're also glad when they tell us what they don't like. Last year, we had a lot of overcrowding at Config. On the one hand, that was like, you know,
not
an interesting
the case
problem
for
to
most,
have.
Shoulder to shoulder.
It's like more of a Coachella.
It was not easy for folks to get in and around, and so we heard that, and I think it feels like much more roomy and spacious this year. And so just trying to make the experience always feel as authentic and connected as we can.
Although the keynote was still standing room only, I noticed, but you know,
we maxed out the number of chairs we could put in there, I think.
Of course. Can you talk about the trade-offs between batching these 4 product releases into one big event versus splitting it up? You could imagine like quarterly releases. There's obviously trade-offs there. In the age of the internet, there's a lot of demand on companies to just, hey, as soon as it's done, give it to me. I want it now, even if it's rough around the edges. Let's iterate. We get that. At the same time, you're becoming more of like the Apple-like annual release, and there's something beneficial from a comms perspective about concentrating all the energy and attention to really break through with one big day of the year, because you can't really dominate the internet every day, even if you're the best in the business.
That's true.
But yeah, how do you think about it? Was it ever a trade-off, or do you just love the annual release cycle?
Honestly, we really look at the roadmap and let the roadmap kind of dictate what will end up at Config and what ends up outside of Config. We're not necessarily on a big annual release a year. Obviously, Config is a catalyst for a bunch of stuff. We've never launched 4 products in one launch ever. And again, going from 4 to 8. So for us, it's not set. We believe in the philosophy that you just said of like get product into users' hands fast, even if it's not, you know, like even if it's early, and learn and keep iterating faster from there, because you know our philosophy is that design is always and product development are always iterative, always living, and so you're constantly going to be tuning it. And the faster you can get it to users, the better. Dylan always tells the story of the early days of Figma, where you know they didn't ship for a few years. He talks about that as being something he would do differently if he could go back again, and it's the advice he gives other founders.
We were talking about this with Andrew too. It's just so much part of the lore of, you know, just basically, you know, building in relative obscurity and then just coming out and how most, I do think that made sense in the context of building novel functionality in the browser and the super complex product, but now that there's a platform taking that kind of iterative approach, you know, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, you learn faster the more people get their hands on it.
Can you walk me through some of the other like comms best practices from amplifying an event like this? Like obviously we're here having fun kind of in the new media streaming, very different world, but I imagine that there's like a series of press releases that go out, and how do you work on getting coverage across, like what is the market map of like getting attention at Figma's level?
Well, because this is an event like for and by our community, a lot of what we do is really about that direct and owned communication and the owned channels across social especially, and then of course like the other events that are, you know, the constellation around Config. Like we had a day 0 block party outside on Howard Street yesterday called Config Commons that was so much fun, like great music, great vibes, people really warmed up. But
I'm sure people joined not knowing what it was, tried to join, not knowing what it was for, just being like, looks like,
that looks fun.
Like a fun party.
Exactly. But, you know, one of the things that we like to do is just have fun with how our brand shows up. Yes, Figma is a B2B SaaS company, but we have a consumer patina to our brand, and we get to lean into that, which is so much fun and unique, I think, within enterprise software. And so, you know, we changed our social handles to be called Config Crave, which I don't know if you all follow Pop Crave on Twitter, but you know, the Demois, the Pop Craves, these Stan accounts that sort of get to feature celebrities.
There was
for us,
even this morning there was a bunch of really funny posts.
I saw that.
Celebrities here are our community, right? So we wanted to feature them, and we just are always looking for ways to do that authentically and have a little fun. You saw I think we talked about the Otto.
Yeah,
The Fig Pal CGI video.
Yeah, there's this like
funny.
Godzilla. Auto.
Yeah.
It's
So
amazing.
We like to have fun and bring that vibe while also like sharing clear factual information. What's launching? When can you get your hands on it? So it's really a balance to do it all.
It's the hardest thing, clarity while trying to get max attention.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's your first config. Tell me what you all think.
No, it's insane.
Huge.
It feels like it feels like being at Coachella.
Yeah, it really
honestly.
does.
It feels like being at a music festival.
Yeah, it's massive.
So
it's so
amazing.
fun to have you here.
And it's so great that the diversity of different types of creatives that we've had on the show just today is so fascinating. The last one was like production sort of.
Isn't he awesome?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
He's so fun.
Incredibly.
He's going to do a great talk
fun.
later today.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that. We didn't even get to like how does he use Figma at all, or
he
like
doesn't.
but he's just speaking about design broadly.
Yeah, we just
That's
think
very cool.
Someone in our community tweeted at us.
Yeah.
You know who I want to hear from at config?
That's
the
cool.
production designer from Severance.
Yeah.
And we were like,
let's
Okay,
make it
let's do
happen.
we've got you.
No,
Made
but
it happen.
you can just tell like the dedication to the craft and the process that everybody, even if you have nothing to do with production, set design, it's like I want to apply a lot from our conversation, not just to our set, but how we do the show. Right?
Yeah.
And a lot of it just resonated. Personally, I'm just excited to go make my first Figma site. So
what are you gonna make?
I don't know. I have so many different ideas at both at TBPN of just like what it enables, just that like speed of iteration. I think that the most frustrating thing for me was always hitting a wall on no code, like low code software, like web development tools where I don't have an engineering background, and it would just be so frustrating to like make something in Figma and then get to the point where I'm like, okay, now I have to wait.
Who do I give it to?
I've got to find like the right developer, and they're like, okay, I can get to it in like a week, and then you're like, can you do it in 2 days? And then it's like, you really want it like that day.
There's so many of these ideas that are effectively like memes, like they're one-off web pages that do not merit any sort of real budget or weeks of engineering time. Like we wanted to do venture capital radio, VC radio, and so when you go to a specific VC firm's webpage, it plays a song that identifies with that fund, and so
that's a really
you go to
good
Andreessen
idea.
Horowitz, American Dynamism is going to play like Free Bird or something. Because
there's this ideas of,
but it's like that's not something that you would want to actually spend some developer's time on. But you just vibe
but like ephemeral apps,
Totally.
websites, this idea of apps as as like memes, right? Of like
the internet
how many
used to
times,
be like this.
Yeah.
Back when it was just an HTML page, you would just kind of hack something together and then stumble upon would drive some traffic, and then we kind of went into the social era, and everything has to be either an image, text, or video. But you know, my hope is that something will break through and people will be able to build more interactive stuff.
Yeah, we talked about this. I want to enable. You know, we have a bunch of brand assets at TBPN, and people will remix them and use them in different ways. And sometimes I look at an image, I'm like, oh, this is like hilarious. I want to reshare it, but like the logo is
not quite right.
not quite right. So
manage all
maybe figuring out a way to make Buzz.
I was going to say you can use Buzz
available.
for that too, and then see what people make for you.
Yeah,
that'd be fun.
Meme you guys.
Yes,
new ones.
Got to be getting memed.
Yeah,
all the time.
Rise of the meme. Love it.
How are you feeling for you guys are headed to
London? We
Oh.
are. Last year, right after Config SF, we took Config to Singapore.
Okay.
This year it's London.
Okay.
We're excited. We have.
Is it a lot of the same like set effectively, or is it a separate set out there?
We are bringing the inflatables.
Yeah. Okay.
Those are easy to
pack up,
collapse, pack, and ship. The synth can't come. It's too expensive to ship, unfortunately.
That makes
but
sense.
it's in general, in another like raw space where we can bring our own scenic and make it feel like Figma. It's a smaller venue. It's about, for a couple thousand people.
Is Config like a full-time job now for Figma? Like, does the planning for 2026 start next week, basically?
It already has.
It already has? Wow.
It already has. We have to walk and chew gum
Our
always.
configs are measured in centuries.
But it's fun. I think there are great moments in companies' lives that like rally everybody together, and they differ for every company. And for us, this is one of them on an annual basis. Everyone on the product team, on the sales team, on the marketing team, and we have a lot of fun with it. And for our you know, it's just really important for us to show up and be present with our users and our community, and make sure that they know how much we appreciate their feedback and how much we're working to ship for them.
Totally.
Yeah.
We need your help at some point finding. Apparently, Dylan was in a Windows XP commercial when he was a kid.
Oh,
do you have that?
This?
I think there's that.
Yeah.
There's Dylan on the Today Show after he became a Teal Fellow with his mom.
No way.
That's
Another good one.
We got to get these.
The third best is in the early days of Figma when it was really small. They were trying to recruit this intern to come work at Figma. She was really into K-pop. So Dylan and the early team filmed a K-pop music video for her. That's like really hardcore recruiting for an intern.
Yeah.
It must not have been very good. She declined the internship.
No way.
But those are some good videos from the early days I can share with you.
She will, I'm sure, always regret that decision.
Maybe.
That's hilarious.
We wish her well. We wish her well.
Yeah.
But that video was
What a
so
miss.
good.
Yeah.
We showed it at our 10-year.
That's like the equivalent for like an intern as like when the NBA general commissioner or like team coach goes to like the parents and sits them down and says like, hey, we want them to join the team or something, or like college recruiting.
Even more than that.
Yeah, even more.
Brutal.
But Dylan did a lot of child acting.
There's so much good lore around that. Like Eric Glyman has that video of him speaking fluent Chinese on some game show. I don't know if you've seen this. Oh, it's fantastic at Ramp.
Is he a fluent speaker?
Yeah. So he was over in China for I don't know, a semester, maybe a couple of years or something. Went on a game show, is telling all these jokes and like getting a uproarious applause from everyone. It's remarkable. And then, of course, Scott Wu at Cognition has that video of him doing like the most complex math imaginable as like a child.
In his head.
Yeah.
What do you all have in your
I don't know. We
in
need
your
to
closets?
dig those up. That's tough.
That's something.
home videos.
Meme those.
Yeah,
Yes.
totally.
For 2025.
Yes.
I'm trying to think when was there's probably a video interview from like my first company years ago, but I don't think it was too embarrassing.
Okay.
I don't have anything embarrassing. The my mom was a graphic designer, and
oh, cool.
so my earliest memories doing design in a business context were working with her. These were like the Photoshop years, and I have like pictures. So I had a skateboard company when I was 12, and I have pictures of me like holding up, the finished product. But it was so funny because at the time I actually really remember how like single player the product was. It was like files and like versions and whatever. So anyways,
I remember some of my friends in high school made like a student film, and I was tall. I'm still tall, but they made me play the dad, which is hilarious. And I was a terrible actor. It was
you had to wear a suit.
Yeah, I did actually wear a suit. It was very, very embarrassing. Anyway,
I do feel a little underdressed compared to you two.
We're overdressed. Look at the
overdressed.
community. This is
we
not exactly the Goldman Sachs technology, media, and telecom conference.
We were in LA. We had a meeting Monday, and we showed up to Milken, not for the event, but meeting somebody there, and we didn't have our suits on.
I had a suit on.
Oh, you had it.
I didn't have a jacket, but I was good.
Well, a jacket doesn't count.
And then we were at Hill and Valley in
we felt
DC,
well,
and that was
you felt right at home.
Right at home.
Yeah.
Everyone.
I mean,
that was all the Silicon Valley people putting on suits for the first time in years.
Yeah.
And
all the DC
and we fit
people
right in.
already
But
in
here we
suits.
kind of stick out. But fortunately, everyone's been very nice, and I think they're having fun.
I don't miss the bad suits from Washington.
No,
That's
no.
not my.
No, the joke is
favorite.
that you're at Hill and Valley when everyone has their business cards in their suits from the last time they were there, because they only go to DC once a year for Hill and Valley. Anyway, we're getting a hard stop, so we're going to
hard
wrap
stop
up
in 4 minutes.
Yeah,
Oh,
but thank
wow.
you so much for hopping on.
Guys, thanks
This is
for being
Well, I think
here.
to be clear, I think we're getting booted from, like, for some reason.
Who
Otherwise,
knows?
we would keep podcasting.
Yeah, I mean, we
I
got another
know.
4 hours in us.
We got
We
at
have-
least another 4 hours. Honestly,
great.
we're not used to being on couches, and it's
It
like
is a little bit different.
Comfy? You
well,
could
it's
go
comfy.
longer?
We could. I
maybe?
think we can.
Yeah.
I think
I
we
know.
could easily put up another 12 hours.
Easily. But
Next
anyway,
time.
Well,
thanks
thank
for
you so
making
much
this
for
happen.
having
This
us.
has been
Why don't you meet
fantastic.
us in London next week? We could
Yeah.
The international travel, we have yet to take the show on the road internationally. We've done Miami, we've done DC, San Francisco now.
Okay.
So check in the boxes. We'll get out.
Okay.
We'll get out there.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for
wait,
Thank you
having
so
us.
much.
Do you know
Congrats.
where the next config is? Or is that not
I'll have to
released
come
yet?
back.
Okay,
It's
let us
not
know.
released.
It's
Come back with
announced.
breaking news.
Yeah.
On the
Would
show.
love to.
maybe I don't know where Saint Tropez or
Sure.
John just wants it to align with 2026 summer plans.
Exactly.
Sorry, John.
Lake Como.
I'm on
maybe.
Geary. I'm on Geary. For a more intimate setting.
I think we may not be the right company conference for those locations, but
I mean, Singapore is very nice.
Singapore
London's
was
great.
fantastic. You should maybe Cannes Lion needs to have TBPN.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
That's what you need.
Yeah. Cannes Lion would be great.
Yeah.
That'd be fantastic.
I feel that for you.
Anyway,
Okay.
thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for tuning
Thanks for having
in.
us.
Yeah.
We will
Talk soon. We'll see you
talk to
after the show.
Thank you so much. Anyway,
Awesome.
this has been a fantastic stream. Thank you for watching. We really had a lot of fun being here at Figma Config 2025. Had a lot of interesting conversations. Really took us on a world tour. Having a Sequoia partner and the designer of Severance. Not every day that you see a technology and business show do both, but we are men of many talents.
So, how many guests do we have tomorrow, by the way?
I think we have like 6. We can give everyone kind of a run through.
I think it's going to be closer to 7.
7.
Do we want to leak it? I think it.
I don't think we should leak it yet, but we have.
I don't want to go.
But we are hoping to get some great people from the government as well as our first post game of a major public company post earnings, which we're very excited about. And so we're going to be digging into that, kind of cutting our teeth in the post earnings game, which we want to get more into. And so stick with us. It's absolutely stacked.
It's
stacked. We have to get back to LA actually right now because we have to prep because we're going wall to wall tomorrow.
It's by far the most stacked show.
I'm excited. It's going to be a big growth moment for the show.
So
anyway, thank you so much for watching. We will talk to you soon.